Chapter 10:13. Am I a money grubber? The onlookers felt as if they were dreaming. Yoon Chujo managed to fool the 8 iron golems with just a few good words? How? How was that possible? Yoon Chujo walked to the side of the 8 iron golems and said the same words. Then, she walked in leisurely and came out with a jade token in her hand. Throughout the whole time the iron golems did not move at all. Yoon Chujo did the same thing at the other locations and quickly obtained more than a dozen jade tokens. The others could not hold it in any longer, and also imitated Yoon Chujio's words to the iron golems. Then they walked in and did not get too close yet the iron golems moved and beat up those people. Those people wanted to cry but had no tears. Damn it, could it be that these iron golems only recognized beautiful women? At that moment, Yoon Chujo had already easily obtained a large number of jade tokens. When In Sullian and the others saw that Yoon Chujo had obtained the jade tokens so easily, they were so depressed that they wanted to dash their heads against the wall. Especially those who had yet to manage to obtain a jade token, their intestines almost turned green with regret. If they had known earlier, they would have followed Yoon Chujo. Although they wanted to grab the large number of jade tokens in Yoon Chujio's hands, Yoon Chujo was surrounded by 200 people. She looked at them with a smile, as if they could not do anything to her. Although everyone was gritting their teeth in anger, there was only a limited amount of time left. It was impossible for them to break through the encirclement of these people and snatch the jade tokens. If they had the time, they might as well try their luck with the iron golems. However, they were very uncertain in their hearts. There was no way for them to exhaust the spirit stones of the iron golems within an hour. Could it be that they had no way to enter the Tianyuan Academy? At this moment, a melodious voice rang out, "Hey, do you guys want the jade tokens?" Everyone looked at Yoon Chujo who was speaking and hope rose in their hearts. Yoon Chujo and the others only needed 50 jade tokens, but she had more than 100 of them in her hands now. Those extra jade tokens were useless to her. Did that mean that she would give them the unwanted tokens? As she thought of the third round of the test, Yoon Chujo was the most greedy person. She shouted, "I, Yoon Chujo, will sell you one of the surplus jade tokens for 10,000 high-grade spirit stones. 20,000. I'll give you 20,000. Sell it to me. 30,000. 50,000. 100,000. Everyone knew that this was their only chance to enter the Tianyuan Academy. They would risk everything to buy a jade token. Yoon Chujo blinked her eyes, and her heart was already bursting with joy. This was a great opportunity to make a fortune. Although she was eager to sell the jade tokens in her hands on the surface, she appeared to be in a difficult position. Everyone, although the extra jade tokens are indeed useless, with so many of you here, the jade tokens are limited. Who should I sell them to? Yoon Chujo, this is a business negotiation. Naturally, the one with the highest bid will get it. I'll offer 150,000 spirit stones. A fatty shouted. I'll offer 160,000. 180,000. 200,000. The crowd once again raised the bidding price, as if they had gone crazy. Yoon Chujo sighed faintly. Everyone, humans love money. Am I that kind of person who loves money? What do you mean by buying and selling the tokens? How hurtful. I'll give you the jade tokens for free. What was that? Everyone could not believe their ears. There was such a good thing? Moreover, this Yoon Chujo was very greedy. Would she give up such a good opportunity to earn money? Chapter 10:14. There must be a problem with the display screen. Just as everyone stared in disbelief, they heard Yoon Chujo continue, however. I know that all of you are people who care about face. You must be feeling uneasy after taking the jade token that I worked so hard to obtain. How about this? You just have to be willing to give me some money for my hard work. 200,000 is too much, and many people can't afford it. How about this? Just give me 100,000 high-grade spirit stones. You guys can draw lots to decide who gets the jade token. I'll give it to whoever gets it. Whether or not you can get the jade token will depend on your luck. When the crowd heard this, although they felt like they were just spewing nonsense, they still said the words, Junior Yoon is really generous. This method is fair, let's do it. Yoon Chujo got someone to make a ball of paper for drawing lots. Then she put it into a box and asked the crowd to draw lots. The person who drew the winning lot was so excited that he was dancing with joy, while the person who did not could only complain about his bad luck. Yoon Chujo had money in one hand and goods in the other. She also received several million high-grade spirit stones. She was so happy in her heart. These people needed to grow some brains. It was an easy way to get so many spirit stones in such a short time. Everyone, these spirit stones are all thanks to you. I, Yoon Chujo, am not a person who eats alone. After we leave, I will transfer 10,000 high-grade spirit stones to each of you. Although Yoon Chujo felt her heart ache, to live a good life in the Tianyuan Academy in the future, she had to make some sacrifices. Those people simply felt that they had received a windfall from the heavens. 10,000 high-grade spirit stones was no small amount. It was enough to pay off a year's worth of tuition fees. It was truly a small fortune. Not to mention 10,000, even 1,000 high-grade spirit stones were considered a lot. They did not expect Yoon Chujo to be so generous. Many people had developed a vague idea in their hearts. If they could follow Yoon Chujo, there would be benefits. If there was still a chance in the future, should they still follow Yoon Chujo? She had the confidence and there was still money to be made. Was it not a great deal? Yoon Chujo saw the change in everyone's eyes. She had recovered from the trauma of giving up 2 million high-grade spirit stones in one go. Those who wanted to achieve great things had to be willing to make sacrifices. These 2 million high-grade spirit stones were worth it. At that moment, in the small square outside, the instructors were all looking at the display screen with dumbfounded expressions. The group that had obtained a jade token would have a jade token icon appear in front of their group name. In the beginning, there were a few groups that had a jade token in front of their names. Everyone was still sighing. This year's batch of examinees' qualifications were truly a little inferior compared to the previous batches. It had been so long, and only a few dozen groups had managed to obtain the jade token. It was estimated that this round of recruitment round would be another round of additional examinations. Just as they were animatedly discussing what to do, they were stunned to discover that the jade token icons had started to appear non-stop in front of group 250, one after another. In the end, the number 250 was squeezed into the third row. The first thought in everyone's mind was, the display screen has gone crazy. What's going on? What's wrong with group 250? How did they get so many jade tokens? This is impossible. There must be a problem with the display screen. Yeah, no matter how powerful they are, they can't defeat so many iron golems at once. Not to mention them, even with our cultivation level we can't get so many jade tokens. Instructor Xiao raised his eyebrows. The display screen couldn't be faulty. They must have really managed to get so many jade tokens. This group 250 was always doing the unexpected. How did they do it? Look, there are fewer jade tokens now. There must be a problem with the display screen. Chapter 10-15. A kind-hearted girl like Junior Yoon. The instructors discovered that, as expected, the number of jade tokens in front of group 250 was rapidly decreasing. Correspondingly, jade tokens began to appear in front of other groups. Not bad. I guess the statistics were wrong just now. Now it's back to normal. Everyone interpreted it in this way. Only Instructor Xiao and the others felt that things were not that simple. Fortunately, the test was about to end. When the time came, they could just ask the examinees. Not long after, the examinees were sent out. Some were happy while others were worried. Insulian shouted, "Instructors, I want to make a report. Yoon Chujo is inside buying and selling jade tokens. She should be disqualified." Those who bought the jade tokens wanted to strangle Insulian to death. If Yoon Chujo was punished, wouldn't we also be implicated? "Instructor, Insulian is slandering us. We didn't spend any spirit stones to buy them. We only gave Yoon Chujo spirit stones to express our gratitude. We gave them to Yoon Chujo voluntarily. It's not a business deal like she said." That's right. How could such a kind girl like Junior Sister Yoon do something like buying and selling jade tokens? Insulian is slandering Junior Sister Yoon because of her grudge against Junior Sister Yoon. This is too much. That's right, Junior Sister Yoon is willing to help others, and helped us obtain the jade tokens. How could it be a business relationship? Insulian, keep your thoughts to yourself. You can't slander Junior Yoon like this. The 200 people who had followed Yoon Chujo from the beginning also shouted indignantly, "That's right. We can also testify that there was no business at all." It's all Sulian's slander. These people thought to themselves, they had accepted 10,000 high-grade spirit stones from Chujio. If Chujio was punished, they would not be able to escape. Moreover, their 10,000 spirit stones would also be confiscated. Damn Sulian, how hateful. Sulian never thought that she would once again become the target of public criticism. She turned her gaze to those examinees who did not receive the jade token. Why aren't you saying anything? You did not get the lot, don't you feel cheated? The examinees looked at each other. Damn it, they were not stupid. Even if they admitted it, they would not gain anything. They might even be disqualified from next year's test. Since that was the case, why should they meddle? Sulian was so angry that her face turned red. She looked at the examinees who got the jade tokens with her own ability and said, Are you all mute? You. Tell me, am I telling the truth? Those examinees looked at each other. It was better to avoid unnecessary trouble. In any case, they had already obtained the qualifications to be admitted, so there was no need to stir up trouble. Moreover, that Chujio had also said at that time she was not selling the jade token, but it was the hard work paid by those people voluntarily, so no one said anything. Instructor Xiao frowned. Sulian, since there is no evidence, let's drop this matter. The examinees who have obtained the jade token have already been officially admitted by the Tianyuan Academy. They will officially be enrolled in 3 days. Everyone can leave now. Sulian still wanted to say something, but Instructor Xiao did not give her a chance to speak. He directly sent someone to lead the examinees out. Shopkeeper Chi was waiting in the large square outside. At that moment, the screen had already displayed the list of the people who had been accepted this time. Chujio and the other 3 were shockingly on the list. He was finally relieved. Shopkeeper Chi recalled that he had thought that the 4 of them enrolling were just wishful thinking. He did not expect them to really qualify to enter the Tianyuan Academy. Just as Shopkeeper Chi was thinking about it, he saw Chujio being surrounded by the crowd like a victorious queen. Chapter 10:16. The cheapskate had turned over a new leaf. Shopkeeper Chi was very puzzled. Why did those people look so grateful to Miss Jio? Could it be that like the 3rd round she was in the limelight again? Chujio finally got rid of those enthusiastic examinees and jumped in front of Shopkeeper Chi. Shopkeeper Chi, we were all accepted. Shouldn't you give us the tuition fees now? Shopkeeper Chi never expected that to be the first thing Chujio would say. He coughed dryly. Miss Jio, I'll transfer it to you right away. When Shopkeeper Chi had reported to the palace mistress previously, the palace mistress felt that Chujio and the others would not be able to enter the Tianyuan Academy, so she agreed. Chujio looked at the storage ring that held an additional 200,000 high-grade spirit stones, and her mood instantly blossomed like 100 flowers. She felt that the Tianyuan continent was not so bad after all. The heavenly lightning here was kind enough to help her expel the demonic beasts, although those 2 scumbags from the Yin family had a worryingly low IQ. There were also those 3 wenches who coveted the gigolo right under her nose, yet she could not do anything about it. Most importantly, despite those few bad apples, the people here were really generous. In the blink of an eye, they had made a lot of money. She was looking forward to her future life in the Tianyuan continent. Sulian watched Chujio's smug look from the side, and she was so angry that she gritted her teeth. Chujio, just you wait. Even if you enter the Tianyuan Academy, I still have a way to deal with you. Chujio and the other 3 followed Shopkeeper Chi back to the Long Wind Inn. Chujio eagerly sent a voice transmission talisman to Di Biming. My idol, are you there? Did you miss me? Di Biming's deep voice came out from the voice transmission talisman. Yes. Chujio pouted. The pretty boy was as arrogant as ever. However, compared to his venomous tongue towards those 3 wenches, he was already very placid with her. I've successfully entered the Tianyuan Academy. Aren't you going to praise me a little? Chujio said sneakily. Not bad. Chujio gritted her teeth. This gigolo could not keep his hands and eyes off her every time he saw her. Now he was playing a game of words with her. Humph, gigolo, just you wait. When we meet, watch how I torture you. Just as Chujio was gnashed her teeth, and Feng's voice transmission talisman started to vibrate. Miss Zhou, Your Excellency asked me to give you 10 million high-grade spirit stones as a gift. Yun Chujia's eyes opened wide, thinking that she had heard wrongly. After confirming it another 3 times, she confirmed that the cheapskate had turned over a new leaf. The resentment that she had just felt suddenly disappeared. She took out her voice transmission talisman and said, "Dear Prince Charming, I realize that I love you more and more each day. I love you so much that I don't want to. If I give you 20 million, would you love me even more?" Beiming teased through the voice transmission talisman. "Prince Charming, am I such a shallow person? Can you buy me over with just 20 million? My love for you has nothing to do with spirit stones." "Oh, I have already sent a message to Enfeng to ask him to transfer 20 million high-grade spirit stones to you. Since you think that this is a little shallow, then I will only give you 10 million instead." Yun Chuzhou wished that she could strangle herself to death. She wanted to call him a blabbermouth and call him a bastard. 10 million upper-grade spirit stones flew away just like that. She gritted her teeth and swallowed those words. She forced a smile and said, "Prince Charming, 10 million is enough. I'm not greedy at all. After you enter the school, cultivate well and don't get into trouble," Beiming warned. "Got it. Prince Charming, you should also take care of your body. Remember to guard against fire, theft, and seductresses." Yun Chuzhou pouted. "He always told me not to cause trouble. When have I ever caused trouble?" Chapter 10:17. The Huang class. Yun Chuzhou put away the voice transmission talisman and went downstairs to look for Enfeng. "Miss Zhou, I'll stay in the Long-Wind Inn in the future. If you have anything to say, you can send a voice transmission talisman to me or come to me directly," Enfeng said respectfully. Yun Chuzhou nodded and then said with a smile, "Pass me Your Excellency's congratulatory gift." When Enfeng had given her the 20 million upper-grade spirit stones, she was so happy that she could not close her mouth. It turned out that the pretty boy was not just playing with her. It was really strange for the pretty boy to be so generous all of a sudden. Yun Chuzhou gave another 100,000 upper-grade spirit stones to Enfeng. "Little madman, this is a reward for you. Save it for your wife." Enfeng was shocked. The 9th miss was too generous. "9th miss, I was just doing my job. This reward is too much." "It's no big deal. I earned over 3 million during the test today. Spirit stones are just a number to me now," Yun Chuzhou said proudly. "9th miss, how did you earn money during a test?" Enfeng was stunned. What said she earned over 3 million during the test? What did this mean? Yun Chuzhou told him about the 4th round of the test. Enfeng was stunned. The only one who could earn money during a test was Miss Zhou. Most importantly, those people were willing to pay for it and even help to hide it. There was no one else who could pull such a thing off. "Little madman, I realize that you people from the Tianyuan continent are generous. You didn't even blink your eyes when it came to 100,000 spiritual stones," Yun Chuzhou said with a smile. Enfeng's eyes twitched violently. He did not blink an eye. People risk usually their lives when trying to enroll in Tianyuan Academy. "Little madman, I heard that Tianyuan Academy is divided into the Tian class, D class, Xin class, and Huang class. An excellent entrance test result like mine should put me in the Tian class, right?" Yun Chuzhou said proudly. Enfeng nodded. "Normally, the classes are divided according to the entrance test results. Then I must be in the Tian class. In the future, if you come to the academy to look for me, just come to the Tian class to look for me," Yun Chuzhou said with confidence. 3 days later, Yun Chuzhou brought Feng Ming and the other 2 to Tianyuan Academy in high spirits. On the display outside the square, the information about the class distribution had already been posted. Yun Chuzhou said to Feng Ming with confidence, "We are definitely in the Tian class. You can just look for our names in the Tian class." Feng Ming and the other 2 also felt that if they were to be divided according to the test scores, the 4 of them should be placed into the Tian class. However, after looking at the Tian class list several times, they still could not find their names. Instead, they saw the names of Yin Sulian and Yin Shuecheng. Feng Ming and the other 2 hurriedly looked through the list of the D class, but they still could not find their names. Just as they were preparing to look through the Xian class list, Yin Sulian walked over. TSK Yun Chujo, although you have passed the test by luck, the academy's instructors have sharp eyes. The Huang class. Ha ha ha. That is the famous class for trash. Yun Chujo, trash will always be trash. Moreover, I heard that the Huang class has not been set up for many years. It must be because you are too trashy that the academy has re-established the Huang class this year. Yun Chujo frowned. Her eyes scanned the Huang class name list. Indeed, she saw the names of her, Feng Ming and the other two. Although she was a little puzzled, however, she stayed calm and composed. Yin Sulian, aren't you afraid of offending all the students of the Huang class with your words? Chapter 10:18. The instructor in charge humph. So what if a bunch of trash is offended? The people from the Huang class will never be able to defeat the people from the Tian class. Yin Sulian said nonchalantly. In her eyes, the people from the Huang class were just a bunch of trash. The examinees who were assigned to the Huang class looked at Yin Sulian angrily. However, they dared not speak out in anger. It was mainly due to because that they did not have the confidence to. Most of these people were the people who followed Yun Chujo in the 4th round of the test, so their spiritual power was relatively low. However, they had protected Yun Chujo as instructed, which was why they were lucky enough to pass the Tianyuan Academy's test. Yun Chujo looked at Yin Sulian indifferently. Nothing is so absolute. Don't be so full of yourself. Otherwise, you will be slapped in the face. Slapped in the face? Yun Chujo, don't flatter yourself. Do you think you are great just because you got 2 first place in the test? It was just dog shit luck. Let's wait and see. Alright, there's still a long way to go. Let's see if you, the amazing Yin Sulian, will be better than me, a trash student of the Huang class. Yun Chujo said lightly. We'll see. I'll let you know that trash will never be able to make it. Yin Sulian curled her lips. Not only did the students of the Huang class lack talent, but the instructors who taught them were people who were not valued by the academy. Therefore, the students of the Huang class had always had the lowest status in Tianyuan Academy. After Yin Sulian had finished speaking, she walked away arrogantly. She felt that she had completely gained the upper hand with the class placements. Moreover, the treatment of the Huang class was inferior. In the future, she felt Yun Chujo would never be able to make a name for herself. Very soon, 4 instructors walked over and gestured for everyone to follow their respective instructors to handle the matters of admission. These 4 instructors were also the instructors in charge of the 4 classes. From the academy's tests to food, clothing, and transportation, they were all taken care of by those instructors. The instructor of the Tian class, Mo Hanchuan, was a middle-aged man. He looked very refined, but his brows were filled with arrogance. When he spoke to the other 3 instructors, there was always a hint of superiority in his tone. Ji Bingyu, the instructor of the D class, was a woman who looked to be in her early 30s. Her appearance was elegant but had a cold temperament. Chung Yuenda, the instructor of the Xian class, was a fat old man. He smiled like the Maitreya Buddha as if he was very easy to talk to. However, his eyes were sparkling, and one look was enough to tell that he was a smiling tiger with hidden intentions. When Yun Chujo saw the instructor of the Huang class, her heart felt like it had been ripped out. Fuck, could it be that there was no one else available in Tianyuan Academy? Even if the Huang class was not liked, it couldn't be to the extent of letting this slovenly beggar be our instructor, right? The supervisor of the Huang class, Ji Sha, was a slovenly middle-aged man. He had a full beard and his clothes were full of oil stains. One look and one could tell that he had not changed clothes for a long time. The hair on his head was also in tufts. He was as slovenly as he could be. The 3 instructors clearly did not like Ji Sha. When they spoke, they stayed as far away as possible from him while wearing looks of disdain. The students of the Huang class felt a chill in their hearts. They were already disappointed when they were assigned to the Huang class. Now that they looked at the instructor in charge, the disappointment grew. Considering that the academy had assigned them such an instructor, it was obvious that they did not value the Huang class very much. Yin Sulian saw the instructor in charge of the Huang class, and the pride in her eyes became even more apparent. Yun Chujo, from today onwards the difference between you and me will be like the difference between heaven and earth. The new students followed their respective instructors, and officially entered the Tianyuan Academy. Chapter 10:19 Fragrant Roasted Chicken Drumsticks. Everyone entered through the main entrance of the Tianyuan Academy, and a sense of pride suddenly rose in their hearts. Even the students of the Huang class felt that their pride was boundless. No matter how weak they were, being able to enter the Tianyuan Academy was still a testament to their strength. Everyone came to the Tianyuan Academy's General Affairs office to receive the Academy's starter kit. Each person had 2 sets of Academy uniforms and 1 identity jade token. The Academy uniforms of each class were roughly the same. They were all white long robes, but the Tianyuan Academy logo at the corner of their robes were of different colors. The Tian class was white, the D class was purple, the Xian class was blue, and the Huang class was black. The students of the Tian class suddenly felt that they were different from the others. They acted all high and mighty, and when they reached the student dormitory, the difference was even more obvious. The dormitory of the Tian class was closer to the central area of Tianyuan Academy. The D class was next and the Xian class was next. As for the Huang class, they were furthest away, close to the walls of Tianyuan Academy. The most important thing was that it was forbidden to fly within Tianyuan Academy, and they could only walk on 2 legs. That meant the students of the Huang class spent much more time on the road than the students of the other 3 classes. The instructors of the other 3 classes patiently instructed the students of their respective classes to pay attention to various matters. The instructor of Huang class, Ji Sha, took out a roasted chicken drumstick and said to the students of the Huang class while chewing, "You guys go behind the 3 classes and listen to them. They are all saying the same thing anyway. Go now." The students of the Huang class felt as if 10,000 divine beasts were roared in their hearts. Holy shit! Are there any other instructors as irresponsible as you? What do you mean it's the same thing anyway? You're lazy. You're lazy. However, they were powerless to do anything. The students of Huang class had no choice but to thicken their skins and stand behind the other classes, listening to the other 3 instructors explain the things they should pay attention to. Yun Chujia's focus was different from the others. She sniffed. "Emma, where did this instructor Ji Sha get the drumstick from? Why did it look so delicious? The outer skin was golden and the meat inside was juicy. It looked very delicious." Ji Sha was munching happily when he felt a hungry wolf's gaze. He looked up and saw a pretty little girl who did not go to the other instructors to listen to the rules. Instead, she stared at the roasted drumstick in his hand. Ji Sha could not eat the roasted chicken drumstick anymore. He frowned. "Little girl, why aren't you listening to the rules? Aren't you afraid of violating the Academy's rules?" Yun Chujo said with a smile, "It's okay. I'll just ask the others later. Instructor Ji Sha, may I ask, where did you buy this roasted chicken? Why does it smell so good?" Ji Sha's eyes twitched. He never dreamed that a student would ask such a question. He looked at the drumstick in his hand and then looked at Yun Chujo. "This is made by Old Ding in the canteen. He doesn't usually make it a part of the regular menu. Instructor Ji Sha, ask that Old Ding to make a few hundred for me. I'll give him spirit stones." Yun Chujia's eyes shone with blue light. This roast chicken looked very good. Ji Sha frowned and looked at Yun Chujo. "Why should I help you?" "Instructor Ji Sha, I won't let you help me for free. I see that you are also a very busy person. I am the most enthusiastic person. In the future, I will take care of all the matters of the Huang class. I will take care of everything that is passed down from the top to the bottom. You just need to say the word." Yun Chujo blinked her eyes, she said with a smile. Ji Sha squinted his eyes and a faint light flashed in them. "Deal." Chapter 10:20. The class monitor of the Huang class, Instructor Ji Sha. "Do you have any ready-made ones in your storage ring? Give me a few to satisfy my craving first." Yun Chujo said slyly. This was the first time Ji Sha had been a responsible instructor. He never expected to meet such a weird student. The corner of his mouth twitched and he passed 3 roast chickens to Yun Chujo. "I don't have much left. I'll let you try these last 3 first." Yun Chujo did not bother with manners. She directly broke off a chicken leg and ate it. It was as delicious as she had imagined, she said as she ate. "Only roasted chicken is too boring. Instructor Ji, ask Old Ding to get me something else." If you're tired of eating roasted chicken, you can change the taste. Eat something light, such as pork trotters and knuckles. Ji-sha's eyes twitched. Pork trotters and pork knuckles were light. Are you kidding me? After the Huang class students listened to the other 3 instructors' explanations, they returned to see their sloppy instructor, and Yun Chuzhou holding a roast chicken leg in each hand and chatting happily. Seeing that the students had returned, Ji-sha said lazily, "From now on, she will be your class monitor." "Oh right, little girl, what's your name?" "Instructor Ji, my name is Yun Chuzhou." Yun Chuzhou will be the class monitor of the Huang class from now on. If you have any problems, just look for her. Now go back to your dormitories and get some rest. Tomorrow we will attend the opening ceremony at Tianyuan Square. You are not allowed to be late. Dismissed, said Ji-sha as he left after dismissing everyone. The students of the Huang class looked at Ji-sha's back with a dumbfounded expression. Then they looked at the 3 instructors who were still reminding the students about some details. They felt that their future student lives were bleak. What are you all thinking about? All of you be more energetic. What's wrong with the Huang class? Do you know what the color yellow represents in the secular world? It represents the supreme imperial power. Therefore, there is nothing to be dejected about being assigned to the Huang class. Believe me, with me as the class monitor, I will definitely be able to lead you from one glorious victory to another, Yun Chuzhou said loudly as she jumped on top of a rock. Class monitor, although what you said is quite exciting, but as you can see, our treatment cannot be compared to those 3 classes. The instructor is so random and lives in such a remote place. How can we compare to them? The instructors are so random? How is our instructor so random? I feel that our instructor choosing me to be the class monitor is the most typical thing one can do. This is called delegation of authority. This shows that our instructor is open-minded, knows people well, and has wisdom. The corners of everyone's eyes twitched. Fuck, are you praising Instructor Ji or yourself? Yun Chuzhou glanced at everyone, then she said also, "What's wrong with our dormitory location? Are we cultivators afraid of such a tiny bit of difficulty? Spiritual power needs to be cultivated, and so do movement techniques. The Academy has provided us with the opportunity to train our movement techniques for free. What else do you have to complain about? Most importantly, the path of cultivation is fraught with difficulties and dangers. How could a mere division of classes defeat you? Is your ability to withstand blows is so weak? Where there's a will, there's a way. If we can pass the 1 in 10,000 test to enter the Tianyuan Academy, it means that our aptitude and talent are first class. Suffering will only increase our chances of success. Only by constantly challenging ourselves will we reach new heights. Tell me loudly, do you have the confidence?" "Yes. Yes. Yes. The class monitor is right. What is this little bit of difficulty? We will be able to turn the tables." "That's right. So what if we are from the Huang class? Isn't it just living further away? Let's just treat it as training for our movement techniques. As long as we work hard, there will be no difficulties that can defeat us." Yun Chuzhou looked at everyone with satisfaction, as they transformed from defeated kittens into lions that went on the offensive. Then she jumped down from the rock and waved her hands. "Let's go. Follow your class monitor to the dormitory." The other 3 students and instructors were dumbfounded as they watched the students of the Huang class leave in high spirits. A thought flashed through the minds of the 3 instructors at the same time. Fuck. If they knew that Yun Chuzhou was such a smooth talker, they would get her into our class no matter what. With such a class monitor, we would be able to save ourselves a lot of trouble. Chapter 1021. The dormitory of the Huang class. The 3 instructors had also chosen a class monitor from their respective classes. However, they might have had preconceived ideas. No matter how they looked at it, their words were not as pleasing to the ear as Yun Chuzhou's. The 3 instructors could only comfort themselves. No matter how glib one's mouth was, it was useless. They still had to rely on their spiritual power to speak. The Huang class' lack of aptitude and talent was obvious. No matter how hard they struggled, they could not surpass them. At the time, Yun Chuzhou had already brought the Huang class students to the Huang class dormitory area. Before everyone arrived, they first passed by the dormitories of the other 3 classes. When they saw their own dormitory, their mood was smothered by a wet blanket. Needless to say, the dormitory of the Tian class was exquisite and neat. Although the conditions of the D class and the Xian class were slightly worse than the Tian class, it was still acceptable. But what the hell were these rows of dormitories that looked like haunted houses? Yun Chujo coughed dryly. Didn't you hear that there hasn't been a Huang class in the past few years? So it's understandable that this dormitory is a little dilapidated. From a different perspective, this is also a good thing. We can change the courtyard into the appearance that we like according to our own ideas. Things that can be solved with spirit stones are not a problem. Doesn't the academy have handymen? Just let them clean it up. This is not a problem at all. Most of the people in the Huang class were people who followed Yun Chujo in the 4th round of the test. Each of them received 10,000 high-grade spirit stones for free. Therefore, when they heard Yun Chujio's words, they felt that it was reasonable. Yun Chujo simply assigned a few students to be in charge of contacting the handyman who repaired the house. When the time came, they would settle the payment together. The jade tokens of the Tianyuan Academy also functioned as a voice transmission talisman. This was very easy to contact, but it was only limited to the area of the Tianyuan Academy. Not long after, a few dozen handymen came over. After negotiating the price, the handymen began to clean and repair the dormitories. The dormitories looked extremely dilapidated, but in reality, it was only because no one had cleaned them for many years. After half a day, the dormitories looked completely new. Yun Chujo asked the students with wood spirit roots to help grow some vines and flowers in the various courtyards. Immediately, these dormitories looked more lively. Yun Chujo asked everyone to hand over 1,000 high-grade spirit stones. Other than paying for the repair of the houses, the rest of the spirit stones were kept by her. It was euphemistically called the class fee. In the future, if there was a need, they would withdraw the spirit stones from that source of funds. Everyone did not have any objections. After all, this money was originally given to them by Yun Chujo. If she wanted to be greedy, she would not have given it to them in the first place, right? Students of the Huang class, look at our clean and beautiful dormitory now. Think about the dilapidated scene we saw half a day ago. Doesn't it look much better now? Sometimes when you encounter a difficult situation, as long as you put in a little effort, you can turn around a terrible situation. The premise is that you must never give up, and you must face it optimistically and positively. Alright, now let's move in according to the student numbers. Yun Chujo did not forget to say a few motivational words for these people at all times. Yun Chujio's student number was very unfortunate. It was still number 250. She already had no strength to complain, so 250 it was. According to the order, she was placed in the last dormitory, which was the furthest from the center of the academy. Not far from her dormitory was the courtyard wall of Tianyuan Academy. Seeing this, some students took the initiative to offer to exchange their numbers with Yun Chujo. Yun Chujo waved her hands and rejected their kind intentions. Chapter 1022. Yun Chujio's dormitory. Fengming and the other two student numbers were close to Yun Chujio's, so their dormitories were also close to each other. As soon as Yun Chujo entered the courtyard, Fengming and the other two came over. Junior sister little Jiao, aren't you the most afraid of trouble? Why did you take the title of class monitor? Fengming asked in confusion. I naturally have my own selfish motives. Strength is important, but connections are also very important. We are not familiar with the people in Tianyuan Academy, so we must build our own network of people. Although the spiritual power of the students from the Huang class is not comparable to the other three classes, they are more obedient. If I can take them as my own, it would be very helpful. Even if I graduate in the future, I might still be able to use them. And Feng had advised Yun Chujio, so she decided to train a group of her own subordinates. Fengming and the other two looked at each other. How did junior sister little Joe's brain work so fast? When we went to listen to the other instructors explain matters related to enrollment, she managed to get the title of class monitor. Moreover, she thought of everything after graduation. People really can't be compared to people in the future. We will be able to bask in the glory of junior sister little Joe. Fengming and the other two told Yun Chujio about some of the things that they had heard, and then returned to their respective dorms. After Feng Ming and the others left, Yun Chujo carefully sized up her new dormitory. This dorm was slightly more spacious than the one in the Spirit Radiance sect. The room had a study room and a bedroom, and there was also a separate living room. It was a very complete setup. There were also newly grown vines and flowers in the courtyard, making the place seem like it was full of vitality. Yun Chujo felt that the only thing missing in the courtyard was a set of stone tables and chairs. It would be even better if there was a swing. Yun Chujia's eyes lit up. I had the 2 whiskers from the illusionary electric eel in my storage bag, which could be used to make a swing. Yun Chujo took out a set of stone tables and chairs from her storage ring. Then she hammered out a crude swing and eyed it with satisfaction. After activating the isolation array in the courtyard, she let out the 3 silly munchkins. Little black bird stared at them with his green bean-like eyes. There are no big trees here? I have a complaint. Master, if there are no trees here, where will I land in the future? As the vines and flowers were easier to grow, there were no trees in the courtyard. Yun Chujo asked Furry to get 3 low-grade coral pearl fruit trees from the Great Void Mystic Realm. Not only were the crowns of the tree larger, but the fruit was also delicious. Yun Chujo dug a few deep pits and planted the 3 coral pearl fruit trees inside. Afraid that they would not survive, Yun Chujo shamelessly poured a little liquid from the strange grass and diluted it before watering the roots of the trees. Not long after, Yun Chujo was stunned to find that the 3 coral pearl fruit trees were not only alive but also blooming. Fortunately, the concentration of the liquid was very low. After they bloomed, the 3 coral pearl fruit trees did not have any other significant changes. Yun Chujo then heaved a sigh of relief. If the changes were too great, she would be forced to bring them back to the Great Void Mystic Realm. After a good night's sleep, the students of the Huang class gathered at the entrance of Yun Chujia's courtyard early the next morning. In just one day, Yun Chujo had become the backbone of their class. As soon as Yun Chujo left the courtyard, a student asked curiously, "Class monitor, where did you get the coral pearl fruit tree in your courtyard?" "I found it when I was training in the past. I like eating this fruit, so I dug up the roots and put them in my storage ring. I planted it yesterday. I guess the spiritual energy in the Tianyuan continent is much denser than in the Azure Mystic continent, so the 3 trees that were in bud bloomed overnight." The corners of everyone's eyes twitched. No one would dig up a tree so casually. These 3 trees looked at least 1,000 years old. The roots below must have dug very deep. It must have taken a lot of effort to dig them out. In order to eat, our class monitor was also quite hardworking. Chapter 1023. The imposing aura of the Huang class. After Yun Chujo activated the locks in the courtyard, she was escorted by the crowd towards the plaza of Tianyuan Academy. Along the way, the large group of students attracted the attention of the crowd as expected. Other than during group activities, the rest of the time, the students of Tianyuan Academy all usually traveled in groups of 3 to 5. They had never seen an entire class of people move together. After some students saw the clothes of Yun Chujo and the others, they discussed, "So it's those first-grade rookies from the Huang class. I guess they are too timid and dare not move around alone." "What you said makes sense. Their spiritual power is too low, so they think that they have the advantage in numbers. They are really naive. The little girl they are surrounding is very pretty. However, she is only at the first level of the spirit sect. How can she be so popular? Didn't you hear them call her class monitor? She is probably the class monitor of the Huang class. They let a little girl at the first level of the spirit sect be the class monitor. Those people are useless. You guys don't know yet, right? That little girl's name is Yun Chujo, and she ascended from the Azure Mystic continent. I heard that she obtained first place in the first 2 rounds of the test. In the 3rd round of the test, it was because she destroyed the array core that the 4th round of the test was conducted. In the 4th round of the test, I heard that this little girl even did business inside and earned several million high-grade spirit stones." "What? Really? How is this possible? Isn't that little girl only at the first level of the spirit sect? How could she have achieved all that?" "I heard that this little girl is an old friend of the palace mistress. I reckon that the palace mistress didn't help her much, so she took advantage of this opportunity to obtain such results. If not for this, why would she be assigned to the Huang class? When the Huang class students saw that everyone was pointing at them, the inferiority complex and depression in their hearts surged up once again. They could not even walk naturally. Yun Chuzhou frowned. Straighten your chests and stomach. Where is your energy and spirit? We only entered Tianyuan Academy after going through all those hurdles. We should be sitting upright with pride. There is nothing to be ashamed of. All of you straighten up. After Yun Chuzhou finished speaking, she walked to the front with her head held high and chest puffed out. The imposing manner from her body made people forget that she was only at the first level of the spirit sect. When the students from the Huang class saw this, they also imitated Yun Chuzhou. They raised their heads, straightened their chests, sucked their stomach in, and walked forward without looking sideways. Perhaps it was because of their psychological effects, but they felt that they were not much weaker than those gossiping students. Thus, everyone saw the freshmen of the Huang class walk into Tianyuan Square, with a majestic aura under the lead of a little girl. Although the spiritual power of the Huang class was the lowest, they had a different kind of spirit compared to the students of the other three classes. They had vigor and unyielding strength. After Yun Chuzhou led the Huang class to Tianyuan Square, she did not let everyone sit on the ground. Instead, they sat in a square formation in a row and in a diagonal line. From the aura, they were able to suppress the other three classes. The other three classes' students also subconsciously straightened their posture. They began to align themselves according to the Huang class and gradually formed a square formation. When the academy's higher-ups and the instructors arrived, they saw the three square formations of the new students seated below them. They then looked at the old students who were sitting in a mess beside them and thought to themselves, although this batch of new students had average talent, their discipline was still pretty good. Especially the square formation of the Huang class. It gave them an imposing aura just from sitting in formation. Furthermore, this kind of aura made it very easy for people to overlook their low spirit energy. Chapter 1024. Asleep at the opening ceremony. The admission ceremony of the Tianyuan Academy started with a speech by the Dean Huangfu Zhongheng. He gave a brief introduction speech, followed by a speech by Qin Mingzhu on behalf of the senior students. After a long speech by the representative of the seniors, the final speech was given by the representatives of the new students. The new students were represented by Gu Machen from the Tianyuan class. He was 18 years old and was at the 7th level of the spirit sect. His appearance was also unworldly. The moment he stepped onto the stage, he received the adoration of some of the female students. Gu Moken's speech was very short. The gist of it was to say that he was honored to enter Tianyuan Academy and express his determination to cultivate diligently and abide by the school rules. Yun Chuzhou listened to the speech very seriously at the beginning. Halfway through, she felt drowsy. There was no novelty at all. Why could they not speak about things like introducing which dishes in the cafeteria were delicious, or perhaps if there were some good treasures in Tianyuan Academy? Finally, the instructor who presided over the event announced the end of the opening ceremony. When the seniors and the freshmen of the other three classes heard that the ceremony was over, they immediately scattered, leaving in a swarm. Only the Huang class students still sat upright on the spot. It was not that they did not want to move, but when they saw their class monitor still sitting upright, they naturally thought they should not get up. How could they know that Yun Chuzhou had already fallen asleep? Dean Huangfu and the other instructors did not understand the situation. They thought that the students of the Huang class wanted to let their instructors leave first, so they could not help but exclaim in admiration. Jisha, I didn't expect your Huang class to be so courteous. It seems that letting you be the instructor in charge of the Huang class was the right move. One of the instructors said with a hint of ridicule. That's right. Although the Huang class is a little lacking in talent, their spirit and energy are not bad. It's really rare that they didn't give up on themselves. I thought that they would still need some time to recover. Another instructor also sighed. Jisha rubbed his nose and looked at the little girl at the front of the square formation. I reckon that this is all because of this little girl. Needless to say, I originally just wanted to slack off. I didn't think that I would actually find such a rare talent. However, why do I feel like that little girl is asleep? Feng Ming saw that Yun Chuzhou had not made a sound. He glanced at her from the corner of his eyes, and the corner of his eyes twitched. He gently tugged on Yun Chuzhou's sleeve. Only then did Yun Chuzhou wake up. She looked up and saw that there was no one else around. Only then did she stand up and pretend to say, "Very good. I'm very satisfied with everyone's performance. The class will officially start tomorrow. To facilitate communication in the future, I've decided to divide our Huang class into 10 groups according to the student number. The student number is 1 to 25 and so on. Then each group will choose a leader." Soon the leaders of the 10 groups were chosen. The 10th group, which was Yun Chuzhou's group, made Feng Ming the leader. The first group is responsible for gathering information about the canteen and the handyman's office. The second group will gather information about the courses. The third group, the various tests and trials. The fourth group, information about the dean and the instructors. The fifth group is responsible for gathering information about the senior students. The sixth is responsible for information about the other 3 classes. The 7th, 8th, 9th, and 10th groups are responsible for gathering information about the outside world of the Tianyuan Academy. The 4 of you will be divided into areas according to your respective regions. Chapter 1025. Old Ding. When everyone heard Yun Chuzhou's words, they were all at a loss. The contents of some of the groups were understandable. After all, they were all related to their studies. However, for those in groups 7, 8, 9, and 10, what was the use of gathering information from the outside world? Yun Chuzhou glanced at them. Do you think that it's unnecessary to get information from the outside world? We only have 5 years of study in Tianyuan Academy at most. What about after graduation? If you don't make any plans now, do you want to go out blind and oblivious? Or has your family already arranged a way out for you? Even if they have arranged something for you, would you be willing to be blindly led by the nose? Or would you rather be in control of your own life? Everyone was shocked. Indeed, they did not think so far ahead. They had just entered the school. How could they have thought about what would happen after graduation? Hearing Yun Chuzhou's words, they were shocked to realize how short-sighted they were. To think that though they were born and raised in the Tianyuan continent and had a sense of superiority, they were not even close to the class monitor's level. It was not just their brains too, but also their plans for the future. Alright, since there are no objections, each of you can go to your team leaders to discuss the next step. Yun Chuzhou waved her hands at everyone, then she eagerly chased after Ji Sha. Instructor Ji, I have something to report to you about the class. Ji Sha was walking back with the other instructors when he heard Yun Chuzhou shout his name. He had no choice but to stop. Not long after, Yun Chuzhou hopped over and said, Instructor Ji, do you think our Huang class performed well today? Ji Sha nodded. If not for old man Xiao, he would not have been bothered to be a responsible instructor. Now that he had the help of such a little girl, he naturally could not ask for more. Instructor Ji, since you are very satisfied with my work, then what about the roast chicken you promised me? Yun Chuzhou's eyes lit up as she looked at Ji Sha. Ji Sha coughed dryly, feeling a little guilty. I was delayed by something yesterday, so I'm going to find old Ding with your request now. Instructor Ji, I'll go with you. It just so happens that I want to thank old Ding in person. Ah, Senior Ding. Yun Chuzhou inexplicably thought of that catchphrase, and old Ding owes me 2 balls. I said 3 days, he said 4 days. Ji Sha felt guilty and could only nod his head in agreement. The 2 of them proceeded to the canteen. Tianyuan Academy had nearly 6,000 students and instructors, so Tianyuan Academy's cafeteria was built to cater to a large number of people. Yun Chuzhou followed Ji Sha directly to the back kitchen. The moment Ji Sha entered the back kitchen, he pulled his neck and shouted, Old Ding! Old Ding! Not long after, an old man who reeked of alcohol sauntered over. Didn't you just take away 30 roasted chickens a few days ago? Why are you looking for me again? Yun Chuzhou sized up the old man. Although the old man's clothes were clean, the strong smell of alcohol on his body made it seem as if he had been soaked in a wine vat. Yun Chuzhou felt that Ji Sha and this old Ding were the same. Sloppy drunkards who did not want to improve themselves. Olding, what else can I do with you? Of course, I'm here for your roast chicken. Make me 100 roast chickens and a few dozen pig knuckles. 100 roast chickens? Pig knuckles? You son of a bitch, didn't you just blackmail me? Are you trying to show off? Get lost. I don't have time. Old Ding looked impatient. He chased the two away like he was waving away a fly. Chapter 1026. Thousand-Year Wine. Jisha gritted his teeth and took out a wine gourd from his storage ring. He then asked Yun Chuzhou, "Little girl, do you know what's in this gourd?" Yun Chuzhou blinked her eyes. "It should be a top-notch spirit wine, right? You're really smart, little girl. This is the 1,000-year wine that I obtained with great difficulty. This is brewed by the golden purple-eyed ape. It's a treasure that can only be encountered by chance but not sought after." Before Jisha could finish his words, Old Ding was so enraptured by the wine that his saliva almost flowed out. "Jisha, brother, your matters are my matters. Isn't it just 100 roasted chickens? 200 wouldn't be a problem. However, can you let me try a cup of that 1,000-year wine? Just a small cup, is that all right?" Jisha curled his lips. "Just now, I recall someone seemed to have said something about a bastard, something about being arrogant. Little girl, let's go. There are many other skilled masters in the canteen. I'll lead you to them." Old Ding immediately became anxious. "Little girl, I'm not bragging, but no one in the Tianyuan continent is better at cooking than me. My roasted chicken not only tastes delicious, but also increases one's spiritual power. Many people would kill for it. You must cherish this opportunity." Yun Chuzhou was very smart. She knew that Jisha was taking advantage of her. She said with a smile, "Senior Ding, I'm sure you're good at cooking. But you just scolded Instructor Ji. Don't you have something to show for it?" Old Man Ding cursed in his heart. This little girl looked young, but she was also a fucking sly fox. He could only grit his teeth and say, "Jisha, I admit defeat this time. I'll get you 500 roasted chickens, okay?" Yun Chuzhou secretly poked him and said, "Add some pig elbows and pig's trotters to that. It would be even more perfect if there were chicken feet or something like that." Old Ding did not know where this little girl came from. Although he wanted to sew her mouth shut in his heart, he kept his cool. He could only add, "Okay, an additional 100 pig elbows and pig trotters it is. This should be enough, right?" Jisha saw that Old Ding was so angry that he gritted his teeth. Then he smiled and said, "Brother Ding, you are too polite. I originally planned to give you a taste of this 1,000-year wine. After all, you are an expert in wine tasting. If this wine is drunk by someone else, it would be a waste of God's gift." Old Ding snorted coldly and did not say anything. He took out an exquisite wine gourd from his storage ring and handed it to Jisha. Jisha poured out a little bit of spirit wine from his wine gourd and placed it into Old Ding's wine gourd. It was about the size of a small wine cup. Old Ding took the wine gourd and sniffed it. He sighed and said, "Good wine. This is very good wine." Come and pick up the goods 3 days later. After Old Ding said that, he angrily stomped back into the kitchen. Yun Chuzhou asked Jisha curiously, "Instructor Jisha, that not even enough for one sip. Why did that Old Ding agree to cook roast chicken for us?" "Little girl, you should know that a 1,000-year wine is different from other spirit wines. Just a small cup tastes like an entire jar of regular wine. Otherwise, do you think Old Ding will give in?" Jisha said proudly. Yun Chuzhou's eyes lit up. "Oh my, that 1,000-year drink sounded interesting. The smell of it was very tempting. Unfortunately, the gigolo did not allow her to drink. Otherwise, she would have thought of a way to get a cup to try it for herself." Jisha saw Yun Chuzhou's eyes twinkle and his heart sank. This little girl had many schemes in her head. He had to be more careful in the future. He did not want her to trick him out of his treasured spirit wine. Chapter 1027. Swearing without actually swearing. Just as Jisha was on guard against Yun Chuzhou, a few instructors walked towards him. One of them was the instructor of the Tian class, Mo Hanchuan. One of the instructors with triangular eyes glanced at Jisha. Then he said to Emo Hanchuan loudly so Ji Sha could hear everything, Brother Emo, I heard that this year's freshmen have set up a Huang class? The one leading the class is still that good-for-nothing Ji Sha? Emo Hanchuan had a haughty attitude. He faintly nodded as a response to that triangular-eyed instructor. That triangular-eyed instructor raised his volume. Which of our Tianyuan Academy's instructors aren't at least at the cultivation level of Spirit Paragon? Some people just stand in the latrine all day doing nothing. Their cultivation has already fallen to the 8th level of the Spirit Saint realm. Yet they still have the face to stay in Tianyuan Academy. They are really thick-skinned. Yun Chujo felt Ji Sha's entire aura turn gloomy. He was like a wolf that had been injured by a hunter. Although there was hatred and discontent in him, he did not have the strength to contend with the other party. Instructor Ji Sha, can we release our spiritual pets while in the Tianyuan Academy? Yun Chujo blinked her eyes and asked Ji Sha. Ji Sha was stunned and replied casually, they can only be released when they are in their own courtyard or during a battle. Usually, they are not allowed to run around the academy. Ah, then why did I hear a dog barking? Could it be that someone broke the rules and released the dog? Yun Chujo asked curiously. Ji Sha was stunned for a moment before he laughed out loud. You're right, I do hear a dog barking. Let's go and report it to the academy's disciplinary office. Naturally, someone will come and punish the owner then beat the dog. When the triangular-eyed instructor heard Yun Chujo and Ji Sha, he was instantly enraged. You, student, which class are you from? How dare you say such malicious words in violation of the academy's rules? Follow me immediately to the disciplinary office to accept your punishment according to the academy rules. Yun Chujo said innocently, Instructor, which of my words were malicious? Who did I say such malicious words to? Can't I even scold a barking dog? Does the dog count as a student or instructor of our academy? You. The triangular-eyed instructor stuttered, but Yun Chuji's words were watertight. He could not find any flaws. If there's nothing else, I'll take my leave. If you want to criticize a student next time, you'd better have real evidence before you say anything. Otherwise, people will think that you're bullying a student. Yun Chujo said with a smile. The triangular-eyed instructor was so angry that his face turned red, but he could not squeeze out another word. Yun Chujo saw the situation and said to Ji Sha, Instructor Ji, let's go. This instructor's eyesight and hearing are most likely not very good, or he has some problems with his comprehension. I don't know how he became an instructor. Could it be that Tianyuan Academy's requirements for accepting instructors are so low? It's puzzling. The corners of Ji Sha's mouth curled up. Naturally, he knew that Yun Chujo was venting her anger on his behalf. Let's go. The triangular-eyed instructor looked at the backs of the two people, and was so angry that he gritted his teeth. Who is that smelly girl? Why haven't I seen her before? Emo Hanchua said, Instructor Ma, that's the new student this year. Her name is Yun Chujo and she is the class monitor of the Huang class. That little girl is very good with words, but her spiritual power is a little low. Otherwise, she would have made a good seedling. Yun Chujo? What kind of background does she have? Instructor Ma was secretly resentful in his heart. She dared to contradict me like this. I will definitely teach her a lesson. It is said that she is the daughter of the palace mistress' old friend, who ascended from the Azure Mystic continent. I have not heard of any other news, Emo Hanshuan said indifferently. Chapter 1028. The class monitor is here. When Instructor Ma heard that Yun Chujo was the daughter of an old friend of the palace mistress, he felt some fear in his heart. If that was the case, then he would not be able to find trouble with her openly. He would need to use some underhanded means to do so. A little girl. He only needed to do little to make her suffer. To dare to offend him, Ma Minghua, she was simply courting death. Instructor Ma gritted his teeth as he watched the two walk off. After walking for some distance, Instructor Ji Sha sighed. Little girl, there's no need for you to offend that Ma Minghua just because of me. He's the most petty person in the academy, and will definitely find trouble with you in the future. Yun Chujia's small face was very serious. Instructor G, an instructor for a day is a father for life. You're my instructor. How can I allow others to insult you? Moreover, the path of cultivation is already extremely dangerous. We cannot be submissive just because we are afraid of others taking revenge. You can rest assured. I am the only one who will harm others. No one else will harm me. If that Ma Minghua does not provoke me, it is fine. But if he does provoke me, I will let him see how powerful I am. Ji Sha was a little touched in his heart, but he also sighed. Indeed, a newborn calf is not afraid of a tiger. You are just a little girl at the first level of the spirit sect, and you are just a newcomer in the Tianyuan Academy. How can you possibly defeat Ma Minghua? It seemed that he needed to thicken his skin and ask those old fellows for help. He could not just watch the little girl suffer the wrath of Ma Minghua because of him. Yun Chujo did not know what went through Ji Sha's mind. After the two of them parted ways, Yun Chujo was originally planning to wander around when she heard her identity jade plate shake. After she sent her spiritual sense in, she heard Feng Ming's anxious voice. Junior sister little Jiu, we've encountered some trouble. We were blocked by some seniors in the Tian class dormitory area, and they wanted us to pay them filial piety money. Yun Chujo frowned. Filial piety money? Fuck, they were dreaming. They dared to take advantage of her little brothers. They were tired of living. Senior brother Feng Ming, wait for me for a moment. I'll be there soon. After saying that, Yun Chujo no longer took her time. Instead, she quickly jumped towards the Tian class dormitory. Some of the students they met along the way saw a blur flying towards the Tian class dormitory district. They could not help but click their tongues. What a fast movement technique. That must be one of the top 100 students on the roll of prodigies. That technique was too fast. In only 15 minutes, Yun Chujo had arrived at the dormitory district of the Tian class. As expected, the students of the Huang class all stood there with faces full of anger. In front of them stood dozens of senior students dressed in second-grade Tian class attire. Each of them looked arrogant, as they formed a row of lines that blocked the path of the students of the Huang class. Feng Ming and a few other group leaders were negotiating with them, but it was clear that the other party did not buy it. He arrogantly said, either pay the spirit stones or kowtow. Otherwise, you can forget about returning to your dormitory. Seniors, aren't you afraid of violating the school rules by doing this? One of the students said angrily. School rules? Did we beat you up? Or scold you? Is this path not for all students to use? How does us standing here get in the way of the school rules? A triangular-eyed senior said arrogantly. Yun Chujo cursed in her heart. Damn it, why were all the bastards she met today triangular-eyed? Were they all related? Yun Chujo pretended to cough twice. When the Huang class students turned around and saw Yun Chujo, they immediately cheered happily. Class monitor. Class monitor, you're here? That's great. The class monitor is here. Chapter 1029. Beat up the second-year seniors. When the students of the Huang class saw Yun Chujo, and their expressions immediately brightened. With Yun Chujo around, they all seemed to sprouted a backbone. They were also puzzled. The class monitor was obviously younger than them, and her spiritual power was not that high either. Yet did her presence make people feel very at ease? After the dozens of second-year students of the Tian class saw Yun Chujo, they curled their lips in disdain. The triangular-eyed senior said arrogantly, Yo, your Huang class is really useless. You actually let such a little girl be the class monitor. Little girl, you came at the right time. According to the rules, you have to hand over the money to us senior students as a gift. Each of you has to pay 100 high-grade spirit stones. Otherwise, you won't be able to pass through here today. Yun Chujo walked in front of the students of the Huang class and sized up the students of the second-year Sky class. All of them were arrogant and had faces that begged to be beaten. Seniors, please move aside. We just want to go back to the dormitory. Yun Chujo said lightly. The triangular-eyed senior pouted. As I said, you have to pay the spirit stones or kowtow. Otherwise, you can forget about going back to the dormitory. No negotiations allowed, eh? Yun Chujo still asked indifferently. Negotiations? Junior sisters, you can accompany us and say a few soft words. We can waive the payment for you, but the male students have to pay. Not a single piece can be missing. The triangular-eyed senior eyed Yoon Chujio with ill intentions. This little girl is quite pretty. Yoon Chujio snorted coldly and turned to look at the Huang class students. 6 against 1. Do you have the confidence to beat them up? Class monitor, we are, but fighting is prohibited in the academy. If we are found out, we'll be punished. One of the students said in a low voice. Fighting? We are just asking for advice from the seniors. Moreover, they are the ones who took the initiative to look for us to spar. How is that fighting? Let's fight together. Fuck, if they dare to bully our Huang class, we will teach them a lesson. I will bear the consequences alone. Beat them all up. Yoon Chujio waved her hands as she took the lead and shot a bolt of lightning towards the triangular-eyed senior. The triangular-eyed senior did not expect the little girl in front of him to be so bold as to resort to violence up at the slightest disagreement. Moreover, what the hell was she using? Lightning? Purple lightning? Fuck. That little girl had a thunder root spirit. The triangular-eyed senior was caught off guard. When he came to his senses, he only had time to dodge at the last minute. However, his hair was burned. He screamed and used his hands to put out the fire on his head. When the other students of the Huang class saw that Yoon Chujio had made a move, they did not hold back. They had suffered for a long time and already burned with anger. They roared and pounced on the second-year students of the Huang class. The second-year students of the Huang class were dumbfounded. They did not expect that the students of the Huang class would dare to make a move. After a short while, they were all beaten up by the students of the Huang class. Although their spiritual power was much higher than the students from the Huang class, they could not compete with the larger number of students from the Huang class. Moreover, every one of them vented their frustrations on them. The second-year students from the Tian class shouted while resisting, "Stop! Stop! If you fight privately, you will be expelled." Fuck you. I've had enough. If I'm expelled, so be it. I'll beat you to a pulp first, you bastard. Right? Beat him up. Didn't you tell us to kneel? I'll make you kneel instead. Chapter 10:30. Are you satisfied with this sparring session? Crazy. All of you are crazy. The second-year students from the Tian class were on the verge of a mental breakdown. When they had just entered the school, they had also been blackmailed by the seniors of the higher grades. Back then, they had all swallowed their anger and handed over the money. How could they dare to resist? They had not expected that these students from the Huang class would not only dare to not hand over the money but also dare to beat them up. They must have gone crazy. The commotion was getting louder and louder. Many students from the dormitory district came out to watch, but they were only there to enjoy the show. Those who were there never felt that it was a big deal. Some people even shouted and cheered from the side. The second-year students from the Tian class were soon all beaten up and bruised. They lay on the ground and wailed like ghosts and wolves. Yoon Chujio carried a large kitchen knife and walked to the triangular-eyed senior. Senior, I wonder if you are satisfied with this sparring match? The triangular-eyed senior's hair had been burned off, and his face was covered in soot. His uniform was also torn and tattered. He gritted his teeth and said, "Damn girl! You dare to gang up on seniors in public? Just wait to be expelled." Yoon Chujio held the large kitchen knife and rubbed the triangular-eyed senior's bald head. "Senior, you are wrong. We are obviously sparring. When did we gang up on each other? We previously agreed that if any side loses, they would have to pay the winner 10,000 high-grade spirit stones. Now that you have lost, shouldn't you fulfill your promise? You are spouting nonsense. When did we say that?" The triangular-eyed senior was about to go crazy from anger. Yoon Chujio held the large kitchen knife and gently cut the triangular-eyed senior's face. Immediately, fresh blood flowed. The triangular-eyed senior was in so much pain that he cried like a ghost and howled like a wolf. Yoon Chujio smiled and said, "If you are willing to make a bet, you must admit defeat. Quickly take out 10,000 high-grade spirit stones, or I will use your face as a canvas with my knife." The triangular-eyed senior angrily scolded, Stupid girl, don't even think about it. Just you wait, I won't forgive you. Yoon Chujo curled the corners of her mouth and then cut the triangular-eyed senior's face again. The triangular-eyed senior was in so much pain that he almost fainted. Stupid girl. Do you know who I am? I am Ma Shang and my uncle is instructor Ma Minghua. Just you wait. I will get my uncle to expel you. I have heard of those who can only rely on their father, and now there are still those who only on their uncles too. Cut the crap, hand over the spirit stones, or I will continue to draw on your face. Yoon Chujo said fiercely, and the big kitchen knife in her hand was about to continue drawing. Stop! Stop! I'll give it to you. The triangular-eyed senior was terrified. A wise man should cut his losses while on the back foot. This stupid girl was extremely bold. If I do not pay her, she would continue to carve up my face. I'll pay her first and deal with her later. The triangular-eyed senior took the lead, and the other second-grade students in the Tian class also gave in one after another. They each offered 10,000 upper-grade spirit stones to Yoon Chujo. Yoon Chujo then said with a smile, "Why didn't you do it earlier? We welcome all seniors to come and spar with us frequently in the future. However, the next time we raise the price, it will at least cost 50,000 upper-grade spirit stones." The triangular-eyed senior and the others were filled with hatred in their hearts. Damn girl, just you wait. There won't be a next time. If you gang up on us in public again, you will definitely be expelled from Tianyuan Academy. Seniors, we are a little tired. We will take our leave now. Thank you for the sparring lesson. We will see you later. Yoon Chujo waved her hands and led the Huang class students away. The triangular-eyed senior waited for Yoon Chujo and the others to leave before he gritted his teeth and said, "Let's go. We will go to the disciplinary department and report this incident." The others also bared their teeth and shouted, "That's right. Let's go to the disciplinary department and report this. Those people from the Huang class need to be severely punished, especially their leader Yoon Chujo. She must be expelled." Chapter 1031. Smoke and Mirrors Class Monitor. What if the law enforcement department wants to punish us? What we are doing is against the rules of the academy, especially since you injured that triangular-eyed student Ma Shang with a kitchen knife. That's right, class monitor, quickly think of something. Otherwise, I'm afraid we will all be punished. Yoon Chujo waved her hands. Don't worry, it will be fine. When the time comes, all you have to say is that they wanted to spar with us. Leave the rest to me. Everyone was skeptical, but there was nothing they could do. They could only return to their dormitories with their hearts in their mouths. Soon, the voice of the Law Enforcement Division's law enforcement tutor rang out from everyone's identity jade medallion, asking everyone to immediately head to the Law Enforcement Division to be investigated. Everyone immediately panicked and quickly gathered outside Yoon Chujio's courtyard. When they saw Yoon Chujo, the nervousness in their hearts instantly turned into confusion. They saw their class monitor with disheveled hair and mud on her clothes. She looked as miserable as she could be. What are you all standing there for? Quickly follow my lead. Make yourselves look as miserable as possible. Yoon Chujo said slyly. Everyone was stunned for a moment. They immediately understood how their class monitor was going to fight against the allegations. Therefore, they began to hurt themselves with all their strength. Some even slapped their faces a few times for the sake of maintaining the illusion. Their faces immediately swelled up. The corner of Yoon Chujio's eyes twitched. Damn, these guys were too dedicated. She couldn't bear to be so ruthless towards herself. The road in front of Yoon Chujio's courtyard suddenly became very clean because, well, the dust had been rolled onto their bodies. Some people had an idea and kicked each other a few times. There were many footprints on their bodies, making them look even more presentable. Yoon Chujo looked at everyone with satisfaction. Then she gave everyone a few packets of chili noodles. Not long after, all of their eyes were red and tears streamed down their faces. Very good. After we leave the dormitory area, all of you howl for me. Howl as miserably as you can. Don't mention anything about seniors or the Tian class, lest you attract other grudges. Just howl and mention that triangular-eyed student Ma Shang saying that he used his power to bully others, and that he relied on his uncle Ma Minghua to not keep his word. After the sparring, he still shamelessly went back on his word. And the most outrageous thing was that he even framed us by saying we ganged up on them. He even said that his uncle was a man of his word in Tianyuan Academy, and that even Dean Huangfu had to listen to him. Yun Chuzhou thought to herself that Ma Minghua was obviously not a good person. Since that was the case, she would strike first and gain the upper hand. Killing two birds with one stone. She was simply too smart. Everyone in the Huang class looked at each other. Damn, this class monitor of theirs was really shrewd. No matter the outcome, that triangular-eyed teacher, Ma Shang's uncle Ma Minghua, would be in trouble. Yun Chuzhou felt that everyone had dressed up enough, so she waved her hands and said, "Let's head to the law enforcement office." Yun Chuzhou walked at the front of the group, followed by the students from the Huang class. The group of people grandly left the dormitory area, and as soon as they stepped out, Yun Chuzhou waved her hands and began howling her sky-shaking screams. "Ayo! We're really in trouble. That Ma Shang took advantage of his uncle to bully us so badly. He kept saying that he wanted to spar with us. Who would have thought that he would beat us up so badly and even try to frame us saying that we ganged up on them? How could a bunch of rookies like us have the guts to gang up on our seniors? We've really been wronged to death." That's right. That Ma Shang even said that his uncle, teacher Ma Minghua, has even more say than Dean Huangfu. He can do whatever he wants in the Tianyuan Academy and wants to expel all of us. That's too scary. That's right. He said that teacher Ma Minghua is the real power behind Tianyuan Academy. Even Dean Huangfu wouldn't dare to do anything to him, let alone the vice dean and class teachers. Chapter 1032. The shameless Huang class. Yun Chuzhou was very satisfied when she heard the miserable screams of the crowd. These people were quite talented. Even she almost believed their words. The Huang class was so big that it quickly attracted the attention of many people. Everyone's hearts were ignited by the flames of gossip. What the hell? What's going on? This is a freshman, right? Huang class. Why are all of them acting like beggars? What's going on? Ah, so they were beaten up by a senior from the Tian class? Ma Shang? I've heard of Ma Shang before. His aptitude isn't bad, but he's riding on the influence of his uncle, instructor Ma Minghua. He's pretty arrogant because of that. If he's the one who did this, then it makes sense. I've heard that there are a few students in his class who aren't on good terms with him. They've all asked him to get someone to secretly teach them a lesson. If they can't beat him, they'll get the instructor to put pressure on them. He's extremely cunning. I've heard that his uncle, Instructor Ma, is very good at manipulating people. Although it's not as exaggerated as what the Huang class students say, he's the most arrogant amongst the instructors. This time Ma Shang is the villain who made the first complaint. I wonder if the disciplinary department will give his uncle face. I guess they will handle this fairly. There are more than 200 people in the Huang class. Each one of them has been beaten up so badly. Are we going to let uncle and nephew Ma Shang distort the truth? Yun Chuzhou overheard everyone's gossip and was delighted. It seemed that the triangle-eyed uncle and nephew had offended many people. That way, their chances of success today would be greatly increased. In the beginning, only about 200 people from the Huang class were crying and wailing as they walked towards the disciplinary department. However, for some unknown reason, more and more people followed tagged along. Some of the people who were usually bullied by Ma Shang had also joined the Huang class. Most of them were the onlookers who were watching the show. They continued to jeer, and half of Tianyuan Academy was alarmed by the noisy crowd. The crowd arrived at the disciplinary department in an imposing manner. Ma Shang was leading the second-year students from the Tian class to wait there aggressively. When they saw Yun Chuzhou and the others, they were instantly dumbfounded. Fuck! What's going on with these people? We didn't injure them, so why are they all in a worse state than us? Before Ma Shang and the others could react, the people who received Yun Chuzhou's hint immediately cried out, "We beg the disciplinary department to decide for us." Yeah, we were bullied by that Ma Shang. We agreed to have a duel, but he said that we beat them up and beat us to the ground. He also said that he has his uncle's support, and no one would care even if he beat us to death. He even said that he would get all of us expelled. He scared us to death. Ma Xiang was so angry that his triangular eyes were about to pop out. He pointed at Yun Chuzhou and the others and shouted angrily, You are slandering us. You were the one who attacked us first. My face was scratched by you, you stinky girl. Yun Chuzhou looked like she was in shock. Senior, you have to be responsible for your words. Didn't you cut your face with your sword? You said that it was just a superficial wound, but it was healed with some muscle regeneration pills. You used it to frame us. Yes, we all saw it. You were the one who cut yourself, but now you want to frame our class monitor. You are too despicable. Exactly. You said that you can get our class monitor expelled with that wound. You are too sinister. Ma Xiang and the second-year students from the Tian class were dumbfounded. Holy shit. Was that person from the Huang class not a little too shameless? He changed black to white and spouted nonsense. Chapter 1033. About to hang themselves, those onlookers did not know the truth. When they heard the Huang class students screaming their discontent, they all believed it and could not help but talk about it. Emma, this Ma Xiang has put in a lot of effort to prank us. He even used such a sinister trick. Fortunately, there is a witness. Otherwise, he would have succeeded in framing us. Ma Xiang shouted angrily, All of you shut the fuck up. Do you know what's going on? All of you are spouting lies here. Be careful, or you will also be punished by the Academy's rules. When those people heard Ma Xiang's words, their discussions grew louder. They also believed in Yun Chuzhou and the others' words. That Ma Xiang was too arrogant and despotic. Just as everyone was in discussion, a disciplinary instructor walked out. That instructor was also stunned when he saw the Huang class' miserable state. Didn't this Ma Xiang say that the Huang class had beaten them up? Why were the Huang class students even more miserable than them? Who had beaten who up? Yun Chuzhou made a hand gesture behind her back. Immediately, the Huang class students started crying and wailing. It was still the same story. Not only did they recount Ma Xiang's evil behavior, but they also implicated Ma Minghua. Instructor Qi usually had a good personal relationship with Ma Minghua. When he heard this, he frowned. Silence. You have so many students in the Huang class. How could you all be injured by Ma Xiang and the others? This is clearly a setup. According to the rules of the Academy, if you frame and beat up your classmates, you will be given a demerit once. After 2 demerits, you will be expelled. Yun Chuzhou, if you have been found to have incited and bewitched your classmates, you will be expelled immediately. The students from the Huang class were stunned. Charged with a demerit once? If they were charged even once, it would be a blemish in their records. Many of the students who were charged once were no longer qualified for the Academy's evaluation. That would be a waste. However, compared to them, Yun Chuzhou's punishment was even heavier. She would be expelled immediately. Being expelled on the second day of school was too sullen. Just as everyone was in a daze, they heard Yun Chuzhou howl. Her shout scared Instructor Qi so much that he fell on his behind. Oh my God! This is really unreasonable. I was clearly the one who was beaten and framed, but am forced to bear the crime. The Academy is so unfair. Students, are we just going to let this go after suffering such a huge grievance? Let's just hang ourselves at the entrance of the disciplinary department. After Yun Chuzhou spoke, she took out a rope from her storage ring and swiftly tied a long row of knots on a few trees at the entrance of the disciplinary department. Yun Chuzhou took out a chair and stood on it. She placed her small head into the knot. Then, she said with grief and indignation, Students, for the fairness of Tianyuan Academy and the justice of the world, today, we will sacrifice ourselves for others and hang ourselves at the entrance of the disciplinary department. In the future, our ghosts will help everyone seek justice. We will always keep an eye on them. If they bend the law for personal gain, our ghosts will not forgive them. The 10 team leaders saw Yun Chuzhou's look and also took out chairs and other items from their storage rings and stood on them. They put their heads into the knot and said, Class monitor is right. We would rather die than live like this. We were bullied, yet they still want to punish us. Where the fairness? Where is justice? We don't want to live anymore. The other students of the Huang class also shouted. That's right. We don't want to live anymore either. Class monitor, there are only a few trees here. You guys go first, we will be there soon. Chapter 1034. Trouble at the disciplinary department. What are you doing? Get down quickly. Don't think that I will let you off just because you are threatening me like this. If you don't get down now, I will have someone forcefully expel you from Tianyuan Academy. When Instructor Chi saw that Yun Chuzhou and the others were actually going to commit suicide, he immediately panicked. He had often profited from the Ma family's uncle and nephew. If the matter were to blow up, it would be bad if it were exposed to the higher-ups. Yun Chujia's little head was swaying in the knot as she pointed at Instructor Chi. Hey Instructor Chi, what is the meaning of this? Are you trying to silence us? As a disciplinary instructor, you blamed us without even investigating the truth. Now, you don't even give us a chance to defend ourselves. I didn't think much of it at first, but you're so protective of that Ma Sheng. Could it be that you have some shady business with him? Or could it be that you have some shady business with Instructor Ma? Or maybe it's both. Instructor Chi's face turned red from Yun Chujia's words and the veins on his neck bulged. He retorted angrily from embarrassment. Impudent! You dare to slander the instructor. Men, expel this Yun Chuzhou and these people from Tianyuan Academy immediately. Yun Chuzhou immediately howled. Is there no one else in the disciplinary department who can mete out true justice? Are we going to let Instructor Chi ruin the fairness and justice of the disciplinary department? We've been wronged. Help! He's going to kill someone. The other people from the Huang class also shouted. Some of the surrounding students also joined in the jeers. They were usually punished by Instructor Chi, and they wanted nothing more than to embarrass him in their hearts. With such a huge commotion, it was only natural that many people were alarmed. A few more disciplinary instructors walked out from the disciplinary department. Originally, Instructor Chi was on duty today, so they did not intervene. However, seeing that the matter had got out of hand, they could only come out from the courtyard. Not only that, but the higher-ups of the Tianyuan Academy were also alarmed. Even Dean Huangfu personally rushed over. When Dean Huangfu and the others arrived, they saw that the disciplinary department was completely surrounded. A few trees outside the courtyard of the disciplinary department were tied with knots of rope, and over 10 students had stuck their heads inside. They looked like they were about to hang themselves. Below them, there were over 200 students with disheveled hair and dirty faces. Their eyes were red, and they looked like they had nothing else to live for. Nonsense! This is absurd. What the hell is going on? Dean Huangfu flew into a rage. Dean Huangfu rarely flew into a rage. Once he flew into a rage, all the instructors instantly became nervous, especially that Instructor Chi. He jogged a few steps and said, Dean, these Huang class students were bewitched by the rumors of Yun Chuzhou and surrounded Ma Shang and the others. After I announced the punishment, this Yun Chuzhou incited everyone to force their case with their lives. This Yun Chuzhou is truly crafty and mischievous. She deserves to be expelled from Tianyuan Academy. Dean Huangfu frowned and then looked at Yun Chuzhou, whose little head was still in the knot. Yun Chuzhou, what do you have to say? Yun Chuzhou quickly jumped down from the chair. Then she said to the other group leaders, hurry up and come down. The wise and unparalleled Dean is here. Our grievances are finally being cleared. Yun Chuzhou wiped her tears and came in front of Dean Huangfu. After she bowed, she said indignantly, Dean, as the saying goes, it's always better to live than to die. As long as we have a chance to live, we won't run to our deaths. But Instructor Chi, Ma Shang, and Instructor Ma were in cahoots with each other. Instead of investigating the truth, they would give us a big demerit and even expel us instead. Our small arms can't outrun our thighs, we can only fight with our lives. Chapter 1035. A person must be courageous in life. Instructor Chi saw that Dean Huangfu was silent. He immediately became anxious. Dean, don't listen to this little girl's nonsense. She attacked Ma Xiang and the others first, and she even planned to frame Ma Xiang and the rest. I was completely impartial in dealing with them, and there was no selfishness involved at all. Impartial in dealing with them? There was no selfishness at all? One must speak with a conscience when he speaks. Aren't you feeling guilty when you said that? I've heard that you've received quite a lot of benefits from the Ma family's uncle and nephew and helped to frame many students. Many of the warnings and punishments on the students were fabricated by you from out of thin air. Yun Chujia's small face was solemn as she said firmly, Seniors, today is a good time for us to set the record straight. Are any of you willing to come out and testify against Instructor Chi and the Ma family's uncle and nephew? People need to be courageous in life. Are you going to suffer in silence just like that? If you don't even dare to resist this small injustice, do you think that you can live in peace? Am willing to testify. A few days ago, it was clearly Ma Xiang who humiliated me. I was so angry that I retaliated. Yet when we arrived at the disciplinary department, Instructor Chi had already given me a big demerit without even asking. He even said that Ma Xiang didn't do anything at all. A male student dressed in the second grade Tian class uniform said, I'm also willing to testify. And me. Me too. With someone taking the lead, the others became bolder. Moreover, even Dean Huangfu had been alarmed. It was indeed a good opportunity. They might be able to take down the uncle and nephew duo of the Ma family and Instructor Chi in one fell swoop. The sweat on Instructor Chi's forehead fell like a waterfall. He had never expected that the matter would spiral out of control. At that moment, Ma Xiang shouted in exasperation. Shut up. All of you shut the fuck up. If you continue to spout nonsense, I will not forgive you. Dean Huangfu frowned when he saw Ma Xiang's arrogance. Compared to Yun Chujia's eloquence and pitiful appearance, Ma Xiang's arrogance was really displeasing. Ma Minghua was also among the instructors. He knew that something bad was going to happen today. He never expected that before he could make things difficult for Yun Chujio, she had already taken the initiative against him. At that moment when he saw his stupid nephew's behavior, he wished he could go up and slap him to death. It's all because of that idiot. I will end up implicated by him. Deputy Dean Yin, the disciplinary department is under your jurisdiction. I hope that you can thoroughly investigate the matter of these students and do them justice. Dean Huangfu looked at an old man beside him. Yin Haoyu was one of the deputy deans of Tianyuan Academy. He nodded his head and said, Dean, it's my negligence for the disciplinary department to be in such a mess. I will definitely investigate thoroughly, and will not tolerate it. Dean Huangfu nodded and looked at Yun Chujio. Yun Chujio, Deputy Dean Yin will arrange for the matter to be investigated thoroughly. What exactly happened today? You have to tell the truth, or else I will not let you off easily. Yun Chujio saw the glint in Dean Huangfu's eyes. Moreover, there were many onlookers when the incident happened, so she could only tell the truth. However, telling the truth also had to be done skillfully. Dean, your vision is really sharp. You have seen through my little trick in an instant. I really admire you. Yun Chujio first put on a high hat for Dean Huangfu. Then she continued, after the meeting today, the students of our Huang class were planning to go back to the dormitory to rest. Unexpectedly, Ma Xiang led dozens of people to block our way, giving us two choices. One was to hand over 100 high-grade spirit stones each as gift money, and the other was to kneel and kowtow to them to beg for mercy. He even threatened us female students to do some dirty things with them. Chapter 1036. The so-called truth. When Yun Chujio said that, an expression of grief and indignation appeared on her face. Headmaster, we went through so much to get into Tianyuan Academy. We thought that this was a place of learning and education. Who would have thought that there would be rotten behavior from its students? Ma Xiang and the others are not our instructors, and they are not our elders. Why do we have to give them money to be filial? Besides, if we need to kneel, it only be to our parents or elders. Why should we kneel to them? As for the third point, it's even more absurd. This isn't a brothel, and we female students aren't prostitutes, so why should we be forced to entertain them? Yoon Chujio's words were filled with grief and indignation. When the students of the Huang class thought of the humiliation they had suffered, their eyes turned red and their faces were also filled with grief. Amongst the surrounding students, some had been robbed by the older students. When they recalled what had happened back then, they all revealed similar expressions of discontent. Just why should we give them money as a gift? Being a victim of those bad students made people angry. Yoon Chujio stole a glance at Dean Huangfu's expression. When she saw his brow slightly furrow, she felt relieved. She continued, even though we were very angry after hearing what Ma Xiang and the others said, we thought that peace was the most important thing and begged them bitterly to let us go. We didn't expect that the responses we received were even worse: ridicule and more insults. They even threatened that if we didn't give them the money, we would never be able to return to our dorms. We really couldn't take it anymore, so we decided to force our way through. We didn't expect them to act so shamelessly, saying that if we dared to touch them, they would get us expelled from the academy. At that time I also lost my cool. I felt that Tianyuan Academy was the best academy in the Tianyuan continent. How could they allow such a scoundrel to study here? Thus I wanted to argue with Ma Xiang, but I didn't expect him to actually use foul language and even touch us. The students of the Huang class couldn't stand it anymore, so they started arguing with him. No one knew who made the first move, so everyone started fighting. Director, I admit that I was wrong. I shouldn't have fought back. I should have looked for the disciplinary department to settle the matter, but I don't regret it. Do we have to swallow our anger when we encounter such abuse of power and injustice? I'm willing to accept any punishment you give me. However, the other members of the Huang class are involved in this because they want to help me. They didn't do anything wrong. I, Yoon Chujio, am willing to shoulder the responsibility for this matter alone. After Yoon Chujio finished her explanation, she straightened her small body and looked as if she was ready to face death. When the Huang class students saw that Yoon Chujio had taken all the responsibility, they were extremely touched. They shouted one after another, "Principal, please punish us. The class monitor offended Ma Xiang because of us. The class monitor is innocent. It was all because of Ma Xiang's lousy attitude that we had no choice but to resist." Even some of the surrounding students also shouted, "Yoon Chujio is innocent. That Ma Xiang robbing the freshman is shameless to the extreme. Even if we want to expel anyone, it has to be him." That's right. That Ma Xiang isn't anything to begin with. Scum like him should have been expelled from the Tianyuan Academy long ago. And that instructor Qi, he always defends Ma Xiang without investigating. There must be something fishy going on. And that Ma Minghua can't get away with it either. They are the ones who should leave. Dean Huangfu took a deep look at Yoon Chujio and saw that she had a righteous look on her face. He thought to himself, this little girl is really intelligent. If I were to expel her now, it would inevitably cause public anger. But if I did not, what use were the academy's rules? Chapter 1037. A War of Words Against Deputy Dean. Although Yoon Chujio and the Huang class had their reasons, their beating of their seniors is a well-established fact. Moreover, it involves sensationalism. She was a bad influence on the rest. The others can be given a lighter sentence, but the culprit, Yoon Chujio, must be expelled. Deputy Dean said sternly. Yoon Chujio secretly glanced at Deputy Dean. This Een Haoyu was the fourth elder of the Een family. He should be the fourth grandfather of Een Sulian and the others. Was he going to use his position to seek personal revenge against her? Just as Yoon Chujio was about to retaliate, someone said, "Deputy Dean, you're wrong. Yoon Chujio is the class monitor of the Huang class. It would be disgraceful if she didn't do anything when her classmates were humiliated. Although her behavior was extreme, it was understandable. This was the result of the instructor not teaching her well enough. All the responsibility lies with me. If you want to punish someone, punish me." Jisha, you don't have to worry about that. As the instructor in charge of the Huang class, you naturally will also be implicated in this. Also, don't forget what kind of situation you are in. You still want to take the blame on behalf of others. Why don't you take a look at yourself first? Deputy Dean Yin's eyes were filled with hints of disdain. Jisha clenched and loosened his fists. It was obvious that he was furious. When Yun Chujo saw that, a fierce look flashed across her eyes. She was a very protective person. Even though she had not been in contact with Instructor Jisha for a long time, she felt that Instructor Jisha was very compatible with her temperament. Now that she saw that Instructor Jisha was being treated like that while he pleaded for her, she naturally grew furious. Deputy Dean Yin, as the Deputy Dean of the Tianyuan Academy, shouldn't you be more careful with your words? What do you mean by I am the main culprit? The main culprit is Ma Shang and the others standing behind you. We are mere weaklings who were forced into action. Furthermore, what do you mean by telling Instructor Jisha to take a look at himself? As an instructor of the academy, isn't he already qualified? Does Tianyuan Academy hire instructors on a whim? Or is it because you are the deputy dean that you are so high and mighty that you look down on us students and instructors? Could it be that the Tianyuan Academy has lost its pedigree? Is it because your Yin family is so powerful that none of us have the right to speak up to you? Furthermore, the disciplinary department is within your responsibility. Whether it's the seniors robbing the freshmen or that Instructor Chi abusing his power for personal gain, they all happened right under your nose and you turned a blind eye to them. Wait a minute, are you colluding with them? Yun Chujo took 2 steps forward and stared at Deputy Dean Yin without the slightest hint of fear. Deputy Dean Yin could not believe his ears. How could a mere freshman criticize him in public? Was she crazy? Deputy Dean Yin glanced at Yun Chujo sinisterly and released his spirit pressure. However, he did not expect Yun Chujo to still be staring at him with a cold smile on her face. Deputy Dean Yin was slightly shocked. This little girl was a little strange. She was not afraid of his pressure at all. Could it be that she had some kind of treasure on her? Perhaps it was a gift from the palace mistress, but she was just an old friend's daughter. Did she really think that she was something special? She had to be kicked out of the Tianyuan Academy today. Yun Chujo, although you are sharp-tongued, it is true that you ganged up on the senior. Needless to say, you are expelled from the Tianyuan Academy. Deputy Dean Yin said viciously. Yun Chujo smiled coldly. Deputy Dean Yin, the Tianyuan Academy does not have the name Yin in it. Do you think that you represent the entirety of the Tianyuan Academy? Or are you plotting to remove the word deputy from your title? You are spouting nonsense. Deputy Dean Yin was immediately angered by Yun Chujio's words. Chapter 1038. Dean Huangfu metes out the punishments. Deputy Dean Yin had lost his composure. His face darkened. Yun Chujio, I am punishing you according to the Academy's rules. You don't have to be so glib. You can leave Tianyuan Academy now. If you don't, I will have the guards remove you. Deputy Dean Yin, you keep mentioning the Academy's rules. I wonder where you were when those students were treated unfairly? Also, since they were acting according to the Academy's rules, how should Ma Shang and the others be dealt with for robbing the freshmen? Should they be expelled as well? A dog bit a person and the person chased the dog away. The dog was completely fine, but the person was beaten up by the dog's owner. How outrageous is that? Yun Chujo naturally knew that offending Deputy Dean Yin was not good for her. However, she had already offended the Yin siblings, so she did nothing else to lose. When the surrounding students and instructors saw Yun Chujio's heroic performance, they were all dumbfounded. That Yun Chujo was too bold. She dared to go against Deputy Dean Yin. How would she be punished for that behavior? She would probably be expelled for sure. The Yin siblings in the crowd sneered in their hearts. That Yun Chujo was really stupid. Their 4th grandfather had originally wanted to find an opportunity to deal with her, but he did not expect her to actually give him a chance to so easily. As long as she was expelled from Tianyuan Academy, the Yin family's secret guards would be able to kill her for their revenge. Men, expel Yun Chujo from the Tianyuan Academy. Deputy Dean decided not to argue with Yun Chujio anymore. He ordered the guards to expel Yun Chujio. Fengming, the other two, and the people from the Huang class saw the situation and surrounded Yun Chujio. They shouted one after another, "You can't expel the class monitor. The class monitor is right. Why should the rabid dog that bites be fine, but the person who chased away the rabid dog have to be punished? This isn't fair. You're all rebelling. If you don't move, all of you will be expelled." Deputy Dean threatened in anger. Fengming sneered, "So be it. We thought that the #1 academy in the Tianyuan continent was a sacred place. We didn't expect that they would allow the practice of such rotten behavior. They protected students who caused trouble and punished the victims instead. It's a reversal of right and wrong. There's no justice. We rather not study in such a crooked place." Gengyi and Shixian also added from the side, "Right? This way there's no distinction between right and wrong. The academy that takes sides and engages in private affairs is no longer the Tianyuan Academy that we yearned for in our hearts. If you want to expel us, then go ahead." Some of the students from the Huang class also shouted out of anger, "We don't care either." "If you want to expel us, then just expel us," the onlookers whispered among themselves. It was obvious that Deputy Dean was in cahoots with Instructor Qi and the others. No wonder Instructor Qi was so arrogant. It turned out that he had someone more powerful behind him. Right, the Ma family that Ma Shang was from was a subsidiary family of the Yin family. So that was the case. These people all stood to profit from each other. No wonder they protected each other. With the situation at a stalemate, Dean Huangfu coughed and said in a deep voice, "Ma Shang took the lead in blackmailing the new students and thus will be expelled immediately. The rest of the second-grade Tian class students involved with him will be given demerits. As for the matter of Instructor Ma and Instructor Qi, to avoid suspicion of the disciplinary department, Deputy Dean Xiao will perform an internal investigation and then deal with it accordingly." Although Yun Chujio was the victim, her actions were still improper. She was punished to clean up the Spirit Beast Garden for a month, and the other first-grade Huang class students were punished to clean up the classrooms for a month. Instructor Ji Sha's management was not good, and he was punished with deduction of a month's salary. Deputy Dean was transferred to the Miscellaneous Affairs Department, and the Disciplinary Department was taken over by Deputy Dean Jiang. After Dean Huangfu finished speaking, he did not care about the reactions of the people present and left without a word. Oh. Chapter 1039. Did you notice those knots? Ma Shang hugged Ma Minghua's thigh and cried out bitterly, "Uncle, I don't want to be expelled. Help me plead for mercy. Help me plead with Deputy Dean. He will definitely let me stay." Ma Minghua was so angry that his face turned red. If it was not for this idiot, things would never have gotten to that point. However, the Ma family only had one son, and they could not just stand by and watch him get expelled. Therefore, Ma Minghua looked at Deputy Dean with pleading eyes. Deputy Dean completely ignored Ma Minghua. His old face turned green and purple. He had never expected that Dean Huangfu would actually assert his authority in front of so many people. It felt like he was slapped in the face for incompetence. Dean Huangfu did not show any mercy at all. Not only did he overturn his decision, but he was also transferred from the disciplinary department. There was no comparison between the Miscellaneous Affairs Department and the Disciplinary Department. After an investigation, Ma Minghua and Instructor Qi would definitely be fired. He could not help them at all. He was already fortunate that he was not implicated as a co-conspirator. Seeing that Ma Minghua had not finished speaking, Ma Sheng knelt in front of Deputy Dean and said, "Deputy Dean, please help me. I don't want to be expelled." Deputy Dean had nowhere to vent his anger, so he kicked Ma Shang and said, "Get lost." Deputy Dean gave Ma Minghua and Instructor Qi a look of warning, then left angrily. The students of the Huang class immediately cheered. Cleaning the classroom for a month was nothing compared to receiving a demerit. After that incident, Yun Chujio's prestige in the Huang class grew even higher. Instructor Jisha was also able to stand up for them at the critical moment. So these students had a better impression of this sloppy instructor. While they cheered in the dean's study, an old man was talking to Dean Huangfu. Dean, you've slapped Dean Haoyu in the face this time. Will he be angry from embarrassment? Dean Haoyu's actions over the years have been getting more and more out of line. Originally, on account of his meritorious service to the Tianyuan Academy, I had turned a blind eye to it. However, he has become more and more impudent. He let the disciplinary department get involved in such a mess. Since the matter has become so big, we can use this opportunity to transfer him away from the disciplinary department. A crafty look flashed in Dean Huangfu's eyes. He was like an old fox. Dean, if you handle it this way, I'm afraid that Dean Haoyu will hate that little girl, and even Ji Sha might be implicated, the old man said with some worry. That little girl looks like she can take care of herself. It's not bad to let contend with Dean Haoyu. Watch over her secretly. I see that old Xiao and old Jiang seem to be paying more attention to that little girl. Don't worry, nothing will happen to her. The old man nodded. I heard that that little girl obtained first place in both rounds of the entrance test. In the third round of the test, she even found the core of the array. In the fourth round of the test, she was even more outrageous. She actually managed to obtain more than 100 jade tokens and even started a business. What a little weirdo. Her heavenly thunder root spirit was not wiped out by the Tian Dao. Naturally, she has her unique points. Ever since His Excellency and young Master Wuji graduated from the Tianyuan Academy, there have been no outstanding figures appearing. This Yun Chuzhou might be the next heaven's chosen. Dean, although that little girl is a little strange, she's only at the first level of the spirit sect now. Can she reach the level of His Excellency and young Master Wuji? Dean Huangfu smiled. I can't say in other aspects, but that little girl is shrewder than those two. Did you notice those knots? What's wrong with those knots? Aren't they used for hanging? The old man shook his head. The scene was so chaotic that he had not paid attention to those knots. Those knots are all live knots. The old man was left speechless. Chapter 1040. Spiritual Power Class. At this time, the sky had already turned dark. Yun Chuzhou brought the students of the Huang class back to the dormitory area. Early the next morning, the students of the Huang class had already been waiting at the entrance of Yun Chuzhou's courtyard. They waited for Yun Chuzhou to go to class together. Yun Chuzhou stretched her back and walked out of the courtyard. She followed the crowd and went to the classroom where the class was held. The first grade's 4 classes were held separately. The Huang class classroom was also a little shabby compared to the other 3 classes, but fortunately, it was still clean and tidy enough to study in. The first grade's classes were mostly classes related to spiritual energy. Only about 20% of the time was spent on the 5 arts of the cultivator class. The 5 arts of the cultivator class was an elective class, so the students were free to choose whether to attend or not. The first class was about spiritual power. When it was time, the instructor in charge walked in. Yun Chuzhou found the instructor familiar. She remembered that he was also there when Ma Minghua mocked Ji Sha yesterday. At that time, he also looked like a villain. Like a trax-like after all. After the instructor came in, he only said that his surname was Zhou. Then, he started to teach according to the textbook. After Instructor Zhou hurriedly finished reading, he said, "All right, you guys can try to experience it on your own." Today, the main topic was the materialization of spiritual power. Most of the students in the Huang class did not understand Instructor Zhou's lesson, but when a student asked a question, Instructor Zhou answered impatiently and dismissed them with just a few words. Yun Chuzhou frowned. Are all the instructors of Tianyuan Academy like this? Or is Instructor Zhou that irresponsible? After the class, Instructor Zhou left in a hurry, not giving anyone the chance to ask questions. Class monitor, is it because our comprehension ability is too poor or something? Why can't I understand a thing he taught? That's right, class monitor. Instructor Zhou seems to dislike us. Is it because our aptitude is too poor? Class monitor, do you understand the contents of his lecture? Everyone, please calm down. Let's listen to a few more lectures and before coming up with a conclusion. Yun Chujo frowned as she spoke. She did not understand much of the lesson either. She had never heard of some of the terms Instructor Zhou used before, so she had no idea what he meant. When everyone heard Yun Chujia's words, they could only decide to wait and see. They wanted to see if they could understand the contents of Instructor Zhou's class after a few more lessons. Instructor Zhou did not return to his courtyard after class. Instead, he went straight to Deputy Dean Yin's study room. Dean, I followed your instructions. Those idiots were all confused and did not dare to ask further. When the mid-year competition comes, the students ranked in the bottom 50 will be eliminated. Let's see if that trash Jisha still has the face to continue staying in Tianyuan Academy. And that Yun Chujio. Her spiritual power is the lowest. If she can't solidify her spiritual power, then she will definitely be eliminated. Instructor Zhou deliberately omitted the word, deputy. Deputy Dini nodded. There was no joy or anger on his face. There is an 80 to 90% chance that Ma Minghua and Qi Chang will be removed from the academy. From now on, you will be my right-hand man. I will not mistreat you. Dean, don't worry. Back then, Jisha was also arrogant and went against you. Now he has fallen like a beggar, not to mention Yun Chujio. What can a little girl do? Sooner or later, Tianyuan Academy will be yours, Instructor Zhou said with a flattering look. Deputy Dinin snorted. That old fool Huangfu Zhongheng. If it weren't for me, Tianyuan Academy might have already been destroyed. Now he is putting on airs like the dean. He is detestable. If he doesn't show mercy, don't blame me for being unjust. Chapter 1041. Two bears fighting each other. The classes at Tianyuan Academy were arranged in such a way that students only studied in the morning, and in the afternoon, they had free time to do other activities. After her lunch in the canteen, Yun Chujio eagerly went to the Spirit Beast Garden. When Feng Ming's group and the other members of the Huang class said that they would accompany her, Yun Chujio waved her hands. You guys still need to clean up the classroom. I can do it myself. Besides, if you help me with my punishment, someone might voice their discontent. It's better for me to do it myself. Hearing her words, everyone had no choice but to give up. Yun Chujio hopped on to the Spirit Beast Garden. It was just in time for the third-year students' beast taming lesson. Yun Chujio could only wait at the side and listen to the class as it went on. Unlike the cultivators of the Azure Mystic Continent who only practice 4 techniques, the people of the Tianyuan continent also learned an additional beast taming technique. However, beast taming techniques were very difficult to practice. Most people could only control some low-level demon beasts, which was equivalent to being of little value. Therefore, there were very few people who specialized in beast taming techniques. Many people only used beast taming techniques as a supplementary skill. The lowest level demon beasts in the Spirit Beast Garden of the Tianyuan Academy were 16th level demon beasts. These demon beasts already had intelligence and were very difficult to tame. Although these 3rd grade students had already learned beast taming techniques for 2 years, many still struggled. Fortunately, the majority of these students were at the 8th or 9th level of the spirit sect. Even if those demon beasts were to bite back, they would not be able to hurt them. It was just disheartening to see them unable to tame beasts much weaker than them. Today, these students were trying to tame a level 16 demon beast, the barbaric bear. Although this barbaric bear did not have any spiritual attacks, it had boundless strength and was very tough to deal with. Many students failed to control it. Instead, they were chased around by the barbaric bear and were left in a sorry state at the end of the lessons. A rotund male student was forced out of the bear house by a barbaric bear. Moreover, the 3rd grade disciple's uniform was black. It looked as if 2 bears had fought each other. Yun Chujio could not help but laugh out loud. It was like she had poked a hornet's nest. That fatty was so embarrassed that he had no place to hide. When he heard Yun Chujio's laugh, he immediately became angry. You trash from the 1st level of the spirit sect, what are you laughing at? The fatty climbed up and roared angrily. Senior, I'm sorry. I didn't mean any harm. I just couldn't hold it. I'm sorry. Yun Chujo touched her nose. Although this fatty's words were not pleasant to hear, but she should not have laughed at others either. It was better to hold it in. However, the fatty was unwilling to let it go. Aren't you Yun Chujo from the first grade's trash class? Humph. Since you were punished to clean up the beast house, you should recognize your own flaws and get lost. If you anger me, it'll make you suffer. Yun Chujia's face fell. Senior, I couldn't hold back my laughter just now. It was indeed my fault, but I've already apologized to you, yet you still called me trash and said get lost. Don't you feel that you've gone too far? Moreover, I was preparing to clean the bear house. Because you were in class, I was waiting at the side. Please keep your mouth shut. The fatty curled his lips. Keep your mouth shut? You were originally trash who ascended from the Azure Mystic continent. When did I say something wrong? You still dared to laugh at me? A country bumpkin like you probably don't even know what beast taming is? Country bumpkin. Yun Chujo was not a good-natured person to begin with. After she endured his tantrum for so long, this fatty was still unwilling to let her off. She was also angry. She curled her lips. Senior, since you said that, then don't blame me for being honest. The reason why I laughed just now was that I felt that it was too funny when two bears were fighting on the ground. Seniors, don't you all think so too? Yun Chujia's words caused a wave of laughter from the crowd. In fact, they had also laughed just now. It was just that fatty targeted Yun Chujo because he felt she was weak. Chapter 1042. Don't you want to save your bear faces? When Fatty heard the laughter of the crowd, he got even angrier. You brat, you need to be taught a lesson. Just you wait, I won't forgive you. Wu Heng, don't make any noise during class. Yun Chujo, wait over there first, don't interrupt our class. A middle-aged instructor saw that the matter was getting out of hand, so he spoke out to stop it. Seeing that the instructor had stepped in, Yun Chujo nodded and went to the beast house to wait. That fatty, although he gnashed his teeth in anger, he did not dare to disobey the instructor's commands, so he could only go back to paying attention to the class. After a while, Wu Heng and the others finished their beast taming class. Before Wu Heng left, he fiercely glared at Yun Chujo a few times, snorted coldly, and left. Yun Chujo pursed her lips and took out the token of the spirit beast garden, and placed it in the groove outside the bear house. The 8 barbaric bears inside were then driven to the isolation area nearby. Yun Chujo took out a self-made gas mask and put it on. Then, she brought out her tools and began to clean the bear house. I didn't expect that I, Yun Chujo, would also become a poop-shoveling officer. Damn it, these stinky bears are too unhygienic. This place is so dirty. After Yun Chujo cleaned up the bear house, she took out the dye and divided a few areas on the ground. She then placed her hands on her hips and said to the barbaric bears, "Fortunately, you guys are demon beasts with intelligence. Why are you so unhygienic? Haven't you guys always wanted to cultivate the great Tao and obtain human forms? You guys have to start training now. Have you ever seen a human being as sloppy as you guys? How can you sweep the world if you don't clean up after yourselves? If you can't even do a good job of animal hygiene, how can you talk about the road to immortality? Humph. I've already divided up the areas for you. There are drawings on them and it's clear at a glance. I'll come over the day after tomorrow to check. If you're still not doing what you're supposed to do, I'll go to the other beast houses and publicize your actions. Let's see if you'll lose face." The 8 barbaric bears looked at each other. Their eyes were filled with confusion. Where did this little freak come from? What the hell was she talking about? The bear tribe had always been like this. What the hell was hygiene? Yun Chujo left the bear house. After removing the jade token, the 8 barbaric bears returned to the bear house. The bear house was cleaned very thoroughly, and the ground was divided into 4 areas. One of them had a poop pattern drawn on it. That was obviously the defecation area. The other one had a chicken leg pattern on it indicating it was the dining area. The last one had a moon on it, so it should be the place to rest and sleep. The 8 barbaric bears looked at it and suddenly felt that it was not so bad like that. After all, they were only a few steps away from each other. It was not too troublesome, and it was better than being mocked by other demon beasts. Yun Chujo was assigned to clean 2 beast houses in total. Other than the barbaric bear's beast house, there was also the vermilion-beaked longfeather crane's beast house. The vermilion-beaked longfeather crane's beast house was not far from barbaric bear's beast house. When Yun Chujo arrived at the beast house, she saw more than 20 vermilion-beaked longfeather cranes inside. They all had long red beaks, snow-white feathers, and arrogant postures. The vermilion-beaked longfeather crane was known to be a proud creature. However, its habit of excreting anywhere on the ground was not that good. The beast house was very dirty and in a messy state. Yun Chujo could not help but wonder if the instructor who arranged the work for her intentionally gave her these tasks. Why were all the beast house she had to clean so dirty? Yun Chujo placed the jade token on the groove outside the beast house. The vermilion-beaked longfeather crane were driven to the isolation area. Yun Chujo still put on the gas mask and began to clean the beast house. Chapter 1043. Vermilion-beaked bare-bottomed cranes. After Yun Chujo finished cleaning, she used a die to mark out the area on the ground. She also repeated the same words she had said in Barbaric Bear's beast house. However, the vermilion-beaked longfeather cranes did not have the same lack of self-esteem as those barbaric bears. After they had just been let in, they still defecated on the ground. They did not bother with Yun Chujo's words at all. Yun Chujo frowned and decided to take a look at the situation when she came back the day after tomorrow. 2 days passed quickly. After class, Yun Chujo hopped to the beast house. She first went to the barbaric bear's beast house and saw that the 8 barbaric bears were eating and excreting according to Yun Chujo's instructions. Yun Chujo was very satisfied. Not bad, not bad. As expected of a high-level demon beast. You will be able to cultivate the great Tao in the future. Yun Chujo was in a good mood and casually praised them. The 8 barbaric bears immediately cried out proudly. After Yun Chujo cleaned the bear house, when she arrived at the vermilion-beaked longfeather crane beast house, she instantly grew furious. The beast house was in an even more chaotic condition than the last time. Moreover, those vermilion-beaked longfeather cranes had purposely spread their food everywhere. When they saw Yun Chujo had come over, they deliberately flapped their wide wings and spread the debris everywhere. Immediately, all kinds of debris flew all over the entire beast house. The vermilion-beaked longfeather cranes cried out arrogantly, just like how people laughed at them. As usual, Yun Chujo placed the jade token on the groove outside the beast house. The vermilion-beaked longfeather cranes were to be driven to the isolation area. Yun Chujo would then put on her gas mask and began to clean up the beast house. Except at that time, the vermilion-beaked longfeather cranes did not stop in the quarantine area. They called and flapped their wings to demonstrate their power to Yun Chujo. A fierce look flashed across Yun Chujo's eyes. Damn it, you flat-feathered beasts actually dare to provoke me. Let's see how I'll deal with you. Yun Chujo quietly sprinkled some powder on the food of the vermilion-beaked longfeather cranes as she cleaned up the beast house. After the beast house was cleaned up, Yun Chujo let the cranes back into the beast house and pretended to leave. The vermilion-beaked longfeather cranes returned to the beast house and chirped a few times proudly. How delusional of you to think that a small first-level spirit sect cultivator could command us. We'll torture you to death in the future. The cranes began to eat after their pompous display. They had been raised by people for a long time, so they had no vigilance at all. They ate all the food that had been added with Yun Chujo's seasoning. After a while, Yun Chujo returned. When she saw more than 20 vermilion-beaked longfeather cranes lay asleep on the ground, she smiled sinisterly. Yun Chujo walked into the beast house and kicked a few of the vermilion-beaked longfeather cranes. As expected, there was no reaction. Therefore, she reached out her evil paws and plucked off the tail feathers of more than 20 vermilion-beaked longfeather cranes. The vermilion-beaked longfeather crane instantly became vermilion-beaked bare-bottomed cranes. Yun Chujo looked at the bare-bottomed cranes on the ground and the corners of her mouth curled up. Little guys. Aren't you all showing off the wrong things? Let's see if you still have the face to act arrogantly next time. Yun Chujo stored all the incriminating evidence on the ground in her storage ring. Then she retreated outside the beast house and hugged her shoulders, waiting for the vermilion-beaked longfeather cranes to wake up. Not long after, the vermilion-beaked longfeather cranes woke up. They looked at each other in confusion, then turned their heads to look behind them. Immediately they cried out in fear. The thing the vermilion-beaked longfeather cranes were most proud of was the long feathers on their tails. They did not expect for them to be all gone. Gone, all gone. Where did their tail feathers go? Why had they disappeared when they woke up? Just as the flock of cranes panicked, they heard a little girl say with a smile, "Io, are you guys preparing to run around naked? You're really shameless birds. You actually exposed your buttocks. TSK, you're all too shameless." Chapter 1044. A Little Devil in Disguise. The vermilion-beaked longfeather cranes immediately understood that all of this was done by that little brat. Immediately, they began to call out crazily and pounce on the railings of the beast house. Yun Chujo curled her lips. Not only are you shameless, but you're also brainless. There's a formation here, so you can't do anything to me. Naked cranes, haha, you're so ugly. The cranes were about to go crazy from anger, but even though they pounced on the railing angrily, they had no way of getting out of the beast house. As Yun Chujo winked at them, they got so angry that the cranes were about to faint. Naked cranes, I'm warning you. If you don't follow my instructions and make use of the regions I marked out on the ground, next time you won't only lose the hair on your tails, I'll make sure there isn't a single feather left on your body. If you don't believe I'll do it, you're welcome to try your luck. Yun Chujo said with a smile. The cranes cried out in anger, trying to attract the instructors who were in charge of the spirit beast garden. Yun Chujo curled her lips. Don't waste your effort. I've already asked around. Those instructors won't be here today. So it's useless even if you scream your lungs out. Moreover, even if you complain, your tail feathers won't come back. If you dare to complain, not only will I pluck all your feathers, I'll also draw a few extra decorations on you. Shameless. Too shameless. The cranes had never seen such a shameless person. Although they had intelligence, how could they compare to Yun Chujo, who was full of evil schemes? They were actually scared and let out a few angry cries. They no longer used their wings to hit the railings. Yun Chujo saw that the crane group had quieted down. Then she said with a smile, "That's right. Let's discuss this like intelligent beings. We can talk about anything. Besides, I'm doing this for your own good. Being clean will also help your cultivation. Right? Otherwise, wouldn't there be no difference between intelligent birds like you and the mindless birds on the outside?" The cranes did not say a word. At this moment, their hearts were on the verge of breaking down. They originally thought that that good-for-nothing person was easy to bully. They did not expect that she was actually a little devil in disguise. After Yun Chujo lectured them, only then did she say, "I've said everything that needs to be said. I'll come back the day after tomorrow to check again. If all of you are still dirty and messing the place up, I'll keep my word and let all of you run around naked. Don't think that the academy will expel me just because all of you went to complain to your instructors. Even if I'm expelled, I still have a way to make all of you run around naked before I leave." The cranes remained silent. They only used their eyes to express the anger and discontent in their hearts. Yun Chujo waved her hands with a smile. "Little birdies, I'm leaving. I'll see you the day after tomorrow." The cranes watched Yun Chujo skip away and wished they could rush out of the beast house and kill her. Unfortunately, they were powerless and could not do a thing. The next day there happened a third-grade beast taming class. Those students found that the cranes had all obediently laid down with their necks facing outward, drooping their heads and closing their eyes to rest. Wu Hung, the fatty, saw that those vermilion-beaked longfeather cranes were very obedient today and wanted to show off, So he took the initiative to propose to enter the beast house to practice his beast taming technique. Instructor Qian, who was in charge of the class, readily agreed. After opening the gap in the array, Wu Heng walked in, picked a smaller vermilion-beaked long feather crane, and began to use the beast taming technique. The crane group was already filled with anger, but now that damn fatty actually came in to find trouble, they immediately vented all their frustration and anger on Wu Heng. Fuck. We can't take care of that little devil, so you'll have to do. Peck him. Peck him to death. The crane group swarmed forward and pecked at Wu Heng. Chapter 1045. The unlucky Wu Heng. Whether it was Wu Heng or those students or Instructor Qian, none of them had expected the cranes to suddenly attack. The level of spiritual power of these cranes was much lower than those of the students. Occasionally, one or two of them would bite back when they were being controlled, but most of the time, they were relatively docile. By the time Instructor Qian and the students reacted, Wu Heng had already been pecked until his body was a bloody mess. Everyone hurriedly ordered the cranes to retreat and rescue Wu Heng. Although the unlucky Wu Heng's life was not in danger, his injuries were still substantial. The fury that the flock of cranes had held in for the entire night was vented on Wu Heng. After a flurry of activity, everyone realized that the tail feathers of the vermilion-beaked long feather cranes had all disappeared. When the vermilion-beaked long feather cranes noticed the astonished gazes of everyone, they became even more ashamed and indignant. They flapped their wings angrily and still wanted to peck Wu Heng. It was all that damn fatty's fault. If he had not insisted on coming in, their secret would not have been discovered by these people. Peck him to death. The crowd hurriedly retreated from the beast house. Some students said, "Why are the tail feathers of these vermilion-beaked long feather cranes missing? Could it be that they are collectively changing their feathers?" Forget it. I've never heard of these birds changing their tail feathers. Then why are the tail feathers of these vermilion-beaked long feather cranes missing? Could it be related to Wu Heng? Otherwise, why would those vermilion-beaked long feather cranes attack him so crazily? What you said makes sense. These vermilion-beaked long feather cranes are usually the most docile. It's impossible for them to attack him for no reason. Even if he didn't capture them, it's probably related to him. I heard that Wu Heng's uncle, Instructor Wu, is in charge of the beast house. Could it be that Instructor Wu did it? Is that why these vermilion-beaked long feather cranes attacked Wu Heng? How is that possible? The vermilion-beaked long feather cranes don't know that Wu Heng is Instructor Wu's nephew. Just as everyone discussed what they have just seen, a middle-aged instructor rushed over. Henger, how are you? It was Instructor Wu. When he saw the injured Wu Heng on the ground, he immediately flew into a rage. Instructor Qian, what's going on? How did Henger get injured? Instructor Wu, just now when Wu Heng was practicing the beast taming art, the crane suddenly launched an attack. Usually the cranes are very docile. We didn't react for a moment due to the shock of what just happened. Instructor Qian sneered in his heart. You are the instructor in charge of the beast house. What kind of questions are you asking? Coming with the intention to interrogate us like it was our fault. How could the cranes attack people for no reason? Maybe it was you two who did this. Instructor Wu's gaze was directed at the cranes. The cranes retreated in fear. After they retreated to the living area that Yun Chuzhou drew for them, they lay on the ground and looked at the crowd. Only then did Instructor Wu realize that the tail feathers of the cranes were gone. He frowned. Why are the tail feathers of these vermilion-beaked long feather cranes gone? Instructor Qian said indifferently. They were already like this when we came here. Could it be that it wasn't done by your spirit beast garden staff? How could we possibly pull off their tail feathers without getting hurt by the cranes? This matter must be thoroughly investigated. We must find out who was so lacking in morals that they pulled off the tail feathers of the cranes. Instructor Wu had blamed the person who pulled off the tail feathers for his nephew's injury. Instructor Wu immediately gathered all the instructors and handymen from the spirit beast's garden. After a quick investigation, they immediately found out that it was Yun Chujio. At that time, Wu Heng had already woken up. He immediately shouted, "Uncle, that Yun Chujio laughed at me a few days ago. She must have done it on purpose. She is deliberately taking revenge on me." Chapter 1046. Who did it? Instructor Wu's face darkened even more when he heard that. Hanger. Uncle will definitely bring you justice. That Yun Chujio is too audacious. She dared to openly harm the Academy's spirit beasts. Uncle will immediately send someone to report her to the disciplinary department. After Instructor Wu finished counseling his nephew, he sent an instructor to the disciplinary department. Those third-year students and Instructor Qian did not leave either. Firstly, their class had not yet ended. Secondly, they were also somewhat curious. Could it really be Yun Chujio? If it was, then that she was too bold. She dared to pluck the tail feathers of those vermilion-beaked long-feather cranes? Those vermilion-beaked long-feather cranes were demonic beasts of the 16th level, and she was only at the first level of the spirit sect. How did she do it without getting hurt? Yun Chujio had been busy eating in the canteen. It was rare for her to be so generous as to bring out 2 roast chickens and give them to Feng Ming and the other 2. Just as the 4 of them were chatted and laughed, their identity jade plates started to tremble. After Yun Chujio sent her divine sense in, the corners of her lips curled up. "Senior brothers, you guys eat first. I'm going to the spirit beast garden." "The spirit beast garden? Haven't you already done the cleaning for today? What are you going there to do now?" Feng Ming and the other 2 asked in puzzlement. "It's nothing. I'm going to watch a show. I'll be back in a while." Yun Chujio said indifferently and then skipped away. Feng Ming and the other 2 looked puzzled. Watch a show? What kind of show was there in the spirit beast garden? When Yun Chujio hopped into the spirit beast garden, everyone's eyes were focused on her. Wu Heng's body was bandaged like a mummy. He shouted angrily, "Yun Chujio, you plucked the tail feathers of those vermilion-beaked long-feather cranes. Just wait to be expelled." Yun Chujio pouted, "What tail feathers? What a mess, what are you talking about? And are you very cold? Why are there so many strips of cloth wrapped around your body?" Wu Heng was so angry that he almost jumped up. "Stupid girl. If you hadn't plucked the tail feathers of the cranes, would the cranes have taken revenge on me? You openly hurt the demonic beasts in the spirit beast park. You will definitely be expelled." "What? The tail feathers of the cranes were plucked? Let me see. Who did it?" Yun Chujio shouted as she ran to the railing of the vermilion-beaked long-feather crane's beast house. "Io! Who did this? That person is too bold. How did he do it? Were these vermilion-beaked long-feather cranes were just waiting for their feathers to be taken away? Oh my god, the feathers on their buttocks are gone. How are these vermilion-beaked long-feather cranes going to live now?" They are the noble birds that treasure their reputation the most. It's really embarrassing to lose their tail feathers. Fortunately, only their tail feathers have been plucked. If the rest of their feathers were plucked too, they would die of embarrassment. Yun Chujio glared at the vermilion-beaked long-feather cranes as if she warned them to keep their beaks shut. The cranes felt an inexplicable chill on their bodies and quickly used their wide wings to protect their bodies. They were afraid that Yun Chujio would really jump in and pluck the rest of their feathers. When the crowd heard Yun Chujio's words, they felt a little uncertain. Yun Chujio clearly had a surprised tone and did not seem to be guilty at all. She probably really did not do it. She could not have dealt with so many vermilion-beaked long-feather cranes alone, let alone pluck their feathers. "Yun Chujio, don't be so hypocritical. You were the one who cleaned up the vermilion-beaked long-feather crane's beast house yesterday. If you didn't do it, then who did it?" Wu Heng said angrily. Yun Chujio spread her hands. "I cleaned up the beast house yesterday, but the birds were still fine when I left. Who knows how it turned out like this? I'm only in charge of cleaning up, not solving mysteries. If you're asking me, then who should I ask?" Chapter 1047. Are you preparing to punish your family too? Wu Heng was rendered speechless. Instructor Wu snorted coldly. Yun Chuzhou, although you are eloquent, you can't escape the blame. Since yesterday, you're the only one that entered the Crane's Beast house. If you didn't do it, then who did? Instructor Yuan, what punishment would one receive for openly harming the Academy's spirit beast? If that's the case, then the student would be expelled, said Instructor Yuan from the disciplinary department. Because of Yun Chujia's previous performance, his words were rather strict, as he was afraid of being caught by Yun Chuzhou. Yun Chuzhou glanced at Instructor Wu. Instructor, you have to be responsible for your words. What do you mean by saying that if it wasn't me, then who did it? Could it be that I have already been labeled a criminal? I have no enmity towards those vermilion-beaked long-feather cranes. Why should I pluck out their tail feathers? Those tail feathers cannot be eaten or sold. What's the point of plucking them? When the vermilion-beaked long-feather cranes heard Yun Chuzhou lying through her teeth, they were so angry that they started to twitch. However, when they recalled Yun Chujia's warning just now, they did not dare to do anything. They lowered their heads and did not make a sound. Instructor Wu was stunned by Yun Chujia's retort. He said angrily, if you didn't pluck them out, where did the tail feathers of these vermilion-beaked cranes go? Yun Chuzhou spread her hands. How would I know if you ask me? Perhaps they felt that it was too hot, so they pecked each other's feathers off. It was also possible that some people were trying to slack off. Although the tail feathers did not have any other uses, they could still be used as fans. Some people were so fat so they would need a lot of feathers to fan themselves. Otherwise, why would the cranes attack that person for no reason? Why didn't the cranes attack the others? The vermilion-beaked long-feather cranes were so angry that they were on the verge of collapse. Feeling too hot? Did we peck each other's feathers off? It's not like we have a problem with our brains. This little girl's words were too sarcastic. The onlookers felt that the second possibility that Yun Chuzhou mentioned was more likely. Yes, if it was not Wu Heng who did it, why did the cranes attack him? Moreover, he also had an advantage over the others. He might have accessed the beast houses with his uncle's help. Wu Heng saw the suspicious gazes of the crowd and cursed angrily, stupid girl, you're spouting nonsense. Even if I were to make a fan, I wouldn't need to use the tail feathers of a vermilion-beaked long-feather crane. I can just use the feathers of a sharp-billed crested ibis. As soon as Wu Heng said this, he knew that he had spoken too much. Instructor Wu had often taken some materials from demonic beasts, especially feathers and the like. In the past, he had given Wu Heng a fan made of the feathers of the sharp-billed crested ibis. However, there was no room for him to take back his words. Everyone immediately made the connection. Instructor Wu was so angry that he wanted to slap Wu Heng to death. That idiot! How could Yun Chuzhou let go of such a good opportunity? She immediately clapped her hands. Haha! Did you just admit to your crime? Since you admitted to plucking the feathers of the sharp-billed crested ibis, the tail feathers of the vermilion-beaked long-feather cranes must have also been plucked by you. Although I don't know what you used it for, it must have been done by a habitual criminal like you. Instructor Yun, quickly expel this Wu Heng. Instructor Wu is a righteous person. He actually reported his nephew personally. It's really admirable. How could Wu Heng beat Yun Chuzhou in a war of words? He was dragged in by Yun Chuzhou with just a few words. Instructor Wu glanced at Yun Chuzhou sinisterly. Yun Chuzhou, you don't have to be so glib. You're the biggest suspect. Who plucked the tail feathers of these vermilion-beaked long-feather cranes? These vermilion-beaked long-feather cranes will be the ones to tell us. I'll ask the vermilion-beaked long-feather cranes now and see how you get out of this. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Sword of Destiny YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.